Best late entry of the century. Huh. Braga! Huh.
Is Berk. For generations, it was Viking against dragon. The battles were ferocious, then one day, everything changed. Berk was village that was constantly raided by dragons. In this village, killing dragons was everything. Now everything has changed. There was newfound peace between the two. And this is all thanks to a boy, a girl and their dragons. Hiccup and I met midnight in Toothless, and together we've shown people here that instead of fighting dragons we can ride them, live with them, even train them. On top of one of the sea stack were 6 riders: Astrid, Rada, Fishlegs, Snotlout, Roughnut and Toughnut, along with their dragons Stormfly, Sparkfire, Meatlug, Hookfang, Barf and Belch. They were joined by 2 more riders and their dragons. Okay. Another best trick competition. Who's up first? Hiccup said as he, Toothless, Hiccup and Midnight landed. Fishlegs was about to speak up when Snotlout cut him off. Me. He said, pointing to himself. Actually, I think it's me. I'm going first. This annoyed Astrid greatly. Sweet baby Thor in a thunderstorm, just go already. She yelled. Unfazed by this, Snotlout gave a smirk and started to brag. Oh, don't worry, we'll go alright. And when we go, Hookfang and I are gonna light the sky on. Hookfang, who was getting impatient, took off without waiting for his rider to finish. Fire. Oh, no. Snotlout yelled as Hookfang started performing daring stunts. I'm liking this trick. Rada said, smiling. I'm liking Hookfang. Hiccup said as she enjoyed the performance. Hookfang and Snotlout then rejoined the others. I'm alive. I'm alive. Snotlout said with relief, but as soon as he saw the others looking at him, he quickly regained his composure. Of course I am. Because I'm awesome. It's my turn. Ready, Meatlug. Let's go, girl. Fishlegs and Meatlug's trick, however, was a bit too simply. They just flew around in a circle before landing. Fishlegs didn't seem bothered by this. Yes, new personal best. He said as Meatlug licked him happily. My turn. Roughnut said. No, my turn. Toughnut argued, starting yet another Thorsten argument. You tell them this time, bro. Hiccup said to Hiccup. Guys, same dragon, remember? Hiccup said, before the Thorsten twins got in another argument. Oh, right. They then took off with their dragon, Barf and Belch, but a few seconds later they started another argument. Go left. No, right. And no, right. No, left. After narrowly missing a nearby sea stack, Barf and Belch decided to take control of the flying and threw their riders high into the air, much to the riders' delight. No. Whoa. This is awesome and scary at the same time. I love it. AAAH. Toughnut shouted in midair. Their dragon caught them and took them back to the others. We nearly died. Roughnut said. Yeah, I know. Let's go again. Toughnut asked, getting excited again. Nope. It's my turn, guys. Let's go, Sparkfire. Rada said. She and Sparkfire took off. As they flew towards one of the sea stacks, Rada got out her bow and arrows and rapidly fired 5 arrows in a vertical line, all a few centimeters apart from each other, on the sea stack. Then Sparkfire flew upwards, in a circle so that they were once again flying towards the same sea stack. Alright, Sparkfire, now. Spine shot. She commanded. In response, the purple deadly natter fired 5 spines that landed right on the spot where the arrows were, causing the arrows to split. Good girl. Feeling triumph, Rada led Sparkfire back to the others. Beat that. She said smugly to her fellow natter rider. I got to admit, Ray, that's impressive. Our turn, Stormfly. You might want to take notes. She then turned to Hiccup. You too, Hiccup. Hiccup just smiled in response. Is that so? Ever since Astrid apologized to both of them, they put the past behind them and started over again. And it was going well for all 3 of them. Yep. Astrid said, nodding her head. Hey guys, flirt with each other later. We want to see the trick. Hiccup piped in, causing the 2 to blush. Without another word, Astrid took off. Okay, Stormfly, tail flip. Astrid commanded. Stormfly complied, flipping her tail into the water. Now twirl. The blue natter then barrel rolls, shooting forward. Quick, upward spiral. They finished their routine with a spin high into the air. Alright, Stormfly. Astrid praised her dragon as they came back onto the sea stacks. Not bad. Rada said nonchalantly, although she was secretly planning on practicing similar moves with her dragon. Yeah, but can you do it without the dragon? Snotlout asked. Astrid responded with a punch to his shoulder. Ow. Astrid then turned and gestured to the two remaining riders to go. Wow, we've got quite a competition, bro. Hiccup said, referring to Rada's and Astrid's performances. Yeah, it looks like we've got quite a standard to meet. Hiccup agreed. The four of them then took off. Toothless and Midnight dived down towards the ocean. Just when it looked like they were going to hit the water, Hiccup pulls up and they shoot forward with breakneck speed. They then come across two conjoined sea stacks. The Haddock twins shared a knowing look before getting ready. Hiccup unhooks his metal leg from the saddle and he and his sister and jumps on the bridge between the sea stacks while their dragons flew underneath. The twins then ran across the bridge and jumped back to their dragons on the other side. Toothless and Midnight wrapped up the performance by shooting plasma blasts into the sky, leaving the other teens amazed once again. They won again. They're still the best. Astrid admitted, happy for them. Hate to admit this, Astrid, but you're right. Rada said, still awestruck by the performance. Another win. Great job, guys. Hiccup said. Yep, we still got it. Hiccup said happily. The four of them then flew back to the village. Yep, dragons. Most people on Berk would say life here is better since we made peace with them. Unfortunately, dragons are still, well, dragons. When the Haddock twins and their dragons landed in the village, they saw chaos. Bad dragon. Let go of my food. Drop it, pesky dragon. Dragons. Get off my roof, you pest. Let go of that. These are my apples. Give me back my dainties, dragon. Don't burn that. Suddenly, the villagers stopped what they were doing and ran for cover. Incoming. Look out. Dragon poo. They ran as hundreds of dragons flew by, relieving themselves. Ew, gross, 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 gross. Oh, poop. Oh, that's disgusting. Hiccup said, trying to avoid being hit. And we just got this village cleaned. Hiccup said, covering her nose and mouth. They backed up, bumping into Bucket and Mulch who were using shields as umbrellas. Hey, Mulch. Hey, Bucket. Almost good day. Sorry about the, Hiccup tried to apologize. Every day at 3 o'clock. They're regular at least. A tip of the cap. Bucket commented. Better than the days when it was, kill or be killed. At least we don't have to clean blood anymore. Hey, we've got some fish for that father of yours. Bucket, give the boy the cod. Mulch told his friend. Bucket held out an empty sack which was torn at the bottom. I ate it already. Was it good? Did I enjoy it? Bucket asked confused. Hiccup and Hiccup exchanged a look and sighed. Hiccup then tried to explain to Bucket what happened to the fish. No, actually, Bucket, I don't think, however, he didn't need to explain as a terrible terror walks away with a cod. Most of us here on Berk are willing to take the good with the bad. But there are those who will never accept the dragons and will do anything to drive them away. At night, in a house outside the village lived an old man named Mildew who was trying to sleep. Suddenly his roof started to shake, waking him up. He went outside to investigate and saw a gronkle sleeping on his roof. Dragons. I should have known. He muttered. He then holds up a half-eaten cabbage. Thinks he's at a cabbage buffet. He grumbled. He was definitely going to complain to the chief. He then turns around and, to his horror, saw that a bunch of gronkles have devoured his entire cabbage field. My whole field. Gone. That tears it, fungus. He then called to his sheep, Fungus, and grabbed his helmet, staff and sheep and started to walk towards the village with a scowl on his face. The next day Stoic is giving orders to some of the villagers, stand the elk up in the back. The fishing boats just came in with a big catch. Stoic. A voice called out. Seeing who it belonged to made Gobber sigh. Ah, here's Mildew with the complaint of the day. That is just what I wanted on this fine day. He said sarcastically, not looking forward to whatever Mildew has to say. You picked a bad time, Mildew. I'm a little busy storing food. Winter is coming soon. Stoic said, hoping to avoid talking with Mildew. Mildew ignored that, it's the dragons again. Those demons are not fit to live among civilized men. Neither are you, Mildew. Why do you think we built your house so far outside of town? I thought you got a hint. Gobber responded. This caused Mildew to scowl. Ah, very well, make your jokes. Meanwhile these dragons upend our village carts. Turned people's houses into piles of rubble. This caught the nearby villagers' attention. Mildew's right. One of the Vikings said, agreeing with the old man. They even disturb an old man's peaceful sleep. Can't you see these bags under my eyes? Mildew said, pointing to his eyes. Go on, Mildew. He's right, he's hideous. Gobber commented. These are wild and unpredictable beasts. Mildew shouted. Right you are. They even cracked this man's skull. Completely open like an egg. Mildew said, gesturing to Bucket. Eggs. I like eggs. Scrambled. Over easy. Poached. Bucket asked, oblivious to the situation. You need to put those dragons in cages. Mildew declared. I agree. If you don't, they'll eat us out of house and home and destroy the entire village. He warned. The villagers yelled in agreement. Seeing this, Hiccup and Hicka tried to intervene. They don't do this on purpose. They're just dragons being dragons. Hiccup said. Yeah, they can't help it. They've been living like this for years. Hicka added. Look, Mildew, if there's a problem I'll deal with it. Stoic said, trying to defuse the protest. Oh, there is a problem, Stoic. And I think I speak for everyone when I say you better do something about it soon. The old man warned. Back at the Haddock household, Stoic is discussing the new problem with Gobber. We can't just let dragons roam freely around this island. Hey, we could put up signs. The chief suggested. Signs. For dragons. I know they are smart, but not that smart. Gobber said. No, for the people. Signs. For Vikings. Or not big readers, Stoic. Then we'll build a huge net and stretch it around the plaza. Nets. You do know they breathe fire. Hence, why we struggled to capture them when we were fighting against them. Stoic sighed. I know very well they breathed fire, Gobber, I have observed that. Maybe Mildew was right. We have to figure something. Overhearing this, the Haddock twins decided to step in. No, wait, Dad. What if Hicka and I deal with the dragons? Hiccup said. You too? Stoic asked, doubtful. Why do you act so surprised, Dad? Hicka asked. Yeah, who else? If anyone can control them, we can. We're the ones who truly learned how to tame them. I'm the best man and Hicka is the best woman for the job. Hiccup said confidently. You're not a man yet, Hiccup. And you're not a woman yet, Hicka. Well, you're not going to find out if you don't give us the chance. Hiccup protested. Don't forget you're talking to the same kids who took out a dragon the size of a mountain when no one else could. Hicka reminded him. Stoic considered that for a moment. Fair enough, I'll give you two a chance, starting tomorrow. He decided. The next day, Hicka and Hiccup immediately started their new job. They decided to split up to cover more ground. Okay, gang, things are going to be different around here. Hiccup announced to the dragons. He then sees a woman trying to get rid of a deadly natter that's trying to take the basket of bread she's holding. Get out. Shoo. For the last time, get your nose out of my bread. Alright, time to get started. Hiccup thought as he ran towards the woman and the dragon. Hold on, I'm here to help. Just. No. Easy there. He places his hand on the natter's nose, and the dragon instantly calms down. Alright. Hiccup said satisfied, so far so good. Suddenly, a loud crash is heard which startles the natter. Hiccup turns around to see a gronkle chasing a group of chickens, knocking over carts in the process. As it runs by, the deadly natter also joins the chase. Okay, this is going to be a long day. Hopefully Hicka has a better luck than me. Hiccup said. This may take a while. Hiccup then sees another deadly natter and a monstrous nightmare fighting near a sheep farm, setting some unfortunate sheeps on fire and causing them to scatter in terror. Toothless, stop that fight. I'll put out the sheep. Hiccup told his dragon who obeyed. Okay, whoa. Hiccup chases the sheep into the plaza, right into the middle of even more chaos caused by the dragons, much to the other Vikings' annoyance. Get out. Get back here with my cart. Enough of these dragons. Unbeknownst to Hiccup and his sister, the rest of the dragon trainers were watching their progress from afar. What in the world is he doing? Snotlout asked. This may be a trick question, but it looks like he's helping the dragons break stuff. Toughnut suggested. Cool. Roughnut said. Hiccup tries to put out a flaming sheep, but the sheep refuses to stop and just hops right over him, knocking him over. Doesn't look like Hicka is having a better luck. Rada commented as she observed Hicka struggling to keep a monstrous nightmare from flaming itself, which was setting fire to some of the nearby villages while some terrible terrors were flying around with cod. Wow, They could really use our help. Astrid said. We'll get to it. Toughnut responded. In a minute. Roughnut added. How long is a minute? Rada tested. An hour. Roughnut replied with a shrug. Hiccup finally manages to catch one of the sheep and put out the fire. Sorry about that, Hiccup said. Suddenly, hundreds of dragons begin flying over the village. That only means one thing. And, it's 3 o'clock. Astrid stated. Hiccup, unfortunately, didn't have time to duck for cover and his sister wasn't as lucky either. Oh, no. After the chaos was over and it was night, the Haddock twins were in Hiccup's room resting on his bed. Both were completely exhausted from the day's work. Oh, everything hurts. Hiccup groaned. He then lifts his prosthetic foot. Even this. I never thought it would be possible, but my peg leg hurts. You know, with the dragon's raids now over, I thought we wouldn't need the fire brigade for a while. Yet, I have been to every part of the village today with a bucket filled with water. Hiccup commented. Hiccup. Hiccup. Astrid called out from outside the room. Hiccup immediately got up from his bed. Astrid. Perfect. I don't look too beat up, do I? He asked. Midnight was napping in Hiccup's room. Hiccup shrugged and Toothless gives him a pity smile. Oh, great. Dragon pity. That's the icing on the cake. Hiccup grumbled. Astrid and Rada then entered his room. Hey, Astrid. Hey, Rada. What a nice surprise. Hiccup said. So, what did you two do today? Astrid asked, although she and Rada already knew how it went. Hiccup didn't know that. Nothing much really. Hung around the plaza, you know. He said, trying to sound casual. Yeah, we do know actually. We all saw both of you out there. It's hard to believe either of you are still standing. Astrid said. And that neither of you are injured. Rada added. Hiccup sighs in defeat and flops down onto his bed. I'm gonna be seeing flaming sheep jumping around in my dreams for the next month. He said. You're not the only one, bro. I saw a few flaming sheeps run by today. Hiccup said. Poor sheeps. Rada commented. Hiccup. 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 Hiccup, what happened out there? The plaza looks like a war zone. I know it looks bad. Hiccup tried to explain. Really bad. Astrid whispered. Really, really bad. Rada whispered. Hiccup shot both girls a brief pleading look before he continued. Yeah, but this is only phase 1 of our master plan. Oh, so you two do have a plan? Stoic asked skeptically. Of course we have a plan, Dad, what did you think? We were trying to wing it or something. Have a little faith, Hiccup said, keeping up the facade. Yes, it is a very complex plan. Lots of drawings, several moving parts, step-by-step plan. Yeah, it's, pretty wild and complex. Hiccup finished. How do you guys get away with things? Rada muttered in a low voice. Fortunately, Stoic didn't hear her. Well, this plan better work fast, because Mildew's rallying the entire island against the dragons. And if you two don't get those dragons under control, they'll be calling for their heads. He warned as he left the room. Toothless' head shot up at the last comment. They are going to chop off my head. Why? What did I do? Don't worry, bud. Your head's staying where it is. We'll make sure of it. Hiccup said reassuringly. You two do realize there are, like, a bazillion dragons out there and only 2 of you. Astrid pointed out. I hope both of you really do have a plan. I hope this plan works fast. Rada said. Don't worry, Ray. We're usually good with improvised planning. Hiccup said. Usually. Astrid repeated, getting a bit worried. Hiccup and Hiccup actually did manage to form a plan. The next day, they gathered the other dragon riders and dragons in the arena and explained their plan. That's your plan. You two want us to train dragons? Roughnut asked in disbelief. Here. In the same place where we used to kill them. Toughnut asked. Right, since we don't do that anymore, this arena hasn't been used in a while. That's why it's available for us to use. Hiccup explained. Actually, the dragons do seem a little nervous being in here. Astrid commented, noticing the way all the dragons except for Toothless and Midnight looking around the arena with apprehension. That's because they're very sensitive about this place. Meatlug especially. She lost a cousin here once. Fishlegs said, while comforting Meatlug. We try not to talk about it. Well, obviously, since they have been caged in here and only brought out for fights. Rada pointed out. Some memories don't fade away very fast. Well, they just need some time to adjust to the academy. Once they see that they are fine here, they'll be better. Hiccup said. It's amazing your dad let us use the arena just like that. Astrid noted. Hiccup suddenly became nervous. Well, it would have been, if he actually did, yeah, but, he didn't, so that's another thing we should try not to talk about at all. Especially in front of our dad. Hiccup added. Wait, so we're doing this without your father knowing? Astrid asked. There you go, talking about it when you're not supposed to. Hiccup said, avoiding the question. He then changed the subject. Alright. Everybody, here's the thing. The dragons are out of control and causing destruction to the village. We want them to live in our world without destroying it, but they can't do it on their own. We need to step in. So we need to help dragons destroy things. Toughnut exclaimed, completely misunderstanding Hiccup. We can totally do that. We're so good at it. Hiccup tried to correct him. No, Toughnut, that's not what Hiccup is trying to. Okay, here's what we need to do. First, we need to rile them up. Roughnut said. No problem. We anger everybody. They'll be angry in seconds. Toughnut said. Guys, listen. This is very serious. Mildew is determined to get all of our dragons caged. And I don't know about you, but I do not want that to happen. Hiccup said sternly. Me neither. Hiccup said. It was her fault. Toughnut said, pointing to his sister. I don't know what's wrong with her, but she is not sorry. Roughnut responded by shoving her twin to the ground. Hiccup decided to continue. Okay, then, moving on. The dragons are eating everything they can get. Hiccup said while Hiccup grabbed a loaf of bread to demonstrate. Now, when a dragon grabs something it's not supposed to have, you can get him to drop it by giving him a little scratch just below the chin. Hiccup held the loaf up for Midnight to take. As soon as the female Night Fury took the bread, Hiccup gently scratched her chin, causing Midnight to reluctantly let go of the bread. She was actually hungry, but she did enjoy the scratch. Snotlout, however, did not look impressed. Maybe that works for the four of you, but Hookfang and me. We do things differently. He then grabbed the bread and tossed it to Hookfang, who caught it in his mouth. When I want this guy to do something for me, all I do is get right in his face and drop that right now, mister. You hear me? Drop it. Rather annoyed, Hookfang dropped the bread, only to take Snotlout in his mouth instead. See. He dropped the bread without any arguments. Snotlout said in a muffled voice. Rada started clapping at the demonstration. Do you think we should get him out of there? Toughnut asked. Let me sleep on that. Astrid replied, enjoying what she was seeing. Alright. We've got a lot of training to do, but together, we can keep these dragons under control. Hiccup said. And with the dragons under control, they'll be free from the cages and soaring sky high in no time. Hiccup said. Everyone left the arena, filled with hope. But they seemed to have forgotten something. Hello. Guys. I'm still stuck here if you didn't notice. Is anyone going to help me out here? Snotlout asked, through Hookfang's mouth. Eventually, Hookfang got bored and let his rider go, and Snotlout joined the other teens later that afternoon at the plaza, looking for any dragons to tame. Surprisingly, though, the plaza looked empty. That's strange. Where are the dragons? Fishlegs asked, looking around. Our job is too easy. Roughnut said. Anyone up for lunch? Snotlout asked. Hiccup turned to his twin. If it is too quiet around here, it is a very bad sign. Hiccup finished, getting a bad feeling. As if to prove their point, an explosion was heard from a distance, followed by a thick gray cloud. I bet I know where the dragons are. Rada said. This way. Astrid guided as the group made their way to the source of the cloud. The teens arrived at the scene and they were met with the sight of angry villagers trying to keep the dragons away from the food in the food storage. To Astrid, Snotlout and Rada's dismay, they found their own dragons part of the food stealing group. The dragons have eaten every single supply of food. We've got nothing left for the freeze. Stoic exclaimed angrily. Mildew took that opportunity to step up. I warned you, Stoic. I told you this could happen. But did you listen to me? No. You listened to the words of teenagers instead. And this is the result. Putting those beasts in cages is too much a luxury for them. No. We don't need to cage them. This can be fixed. Hiccup argued. Hiccup's right, Dad, I swear. We were just starting to, Hiccup tried to say. But Stoic wasn't hearing any of this. Enough, you two. How can I trust either you to keep all the dragons in line, when both you couldn't even control your own? He gestured to Toothless and Midnight, who were digging in the basket for fishes. Oh, come on guys. Hiccup said, exasperated. Seriously not helping here. Hiccup said. Midnight and Toothless raised their heads up and warbled apologies to their riders, before looking for more fishes. They were hungry. Stoic sighed and turned to Bucket and Mulch. Bucket. Mulch. Get to the boats and find some fishes to replace the inventory. It's far too late for that, Stoic. We took 6 months to get all those fishes. We'll never replace them in time. Mulch said. Don't tell me it's too late. We've got to try or we won't have anything at all. Stoic replied sternly. Mulch immediately backpedaled. Of course we do. We'll never know until we try. He then turned to Bucket. Bucket, don't go telling the chief it's too late. Why do you have to be so negative? I don't know why I do this to myself. Hiccup tried to defend the dragons. Dad, please. You gotta listen. Hiccup and I know dragons better than. Not now, Hiccup. I need to solve this food crisis because of those dragons. I didn't want to have to do this, but I have no choice. By tonight, I want every single dragon caged. Understand? The teens were shocked and upset about this news. But Mildew didn't seem satisfied with this announcement. He decided to pour salt on the wounds. Bah! Caging the dragons. Like that has stopped them before. You need to send them away now. The teens' eyes widened as the villagers agreed with Mildew. Stoic, Mildew's right. Banish them. Stoic sighed, knowing what he needed to do. You're right, Mildew. Tonight, we'll lock the dragons in cages and by next morning, Hiccup and Hiccup will send them all back to Dragon Island. Dad, Hiccup said in disbelief. Stoic tried to not to break his resolve. I'm sorry, Hiccup, but this needs to be done. And there were no arguments. That night, the teens gathered in the Great Hall, all in melancholy over their soon-to-be losses. I can't believe the dragons are going to be sent back to the island. Snotlout complained. It's gonna be so weird without them. I'm used to seeing Stormfly's face being the first thing I see every morning. Astrid said. I'm going to miss all the sunset and sunrise flights with Sparkfire. Rada said. Every night before I go to sleep, Meatlug would always lick my feet so happily. Fishlegs said sadly. Who's gonna do that now? Toughnut can do that. Roughnut suggested, trying to lighten the mood. Her attempt failed, as not even her own twin brightened up at that, whatever. When should I be there? He said monotonously. Astrid sighed. Come on, guys. The sooner we do this, the sooner we can get this over with. This is the worst day of my life. We're never gonna see our dragons again after this. Fishlegs groaned as he, Astrid, Rada, Snotlout and the Thorsten twins left. Hiccup and Hiccup stayed behind. We can't let this happen. Toothless and Midnight are the best friends we've ever had, aside from Rada. Hiccup said. I know, there has to be something we can do. Hiccup said. Oh, Toothless, Midnight, I'm gonna miss you two so much. Mildew said in a mock tone, earning glares, from the Haddock twins. You two want to know what your mistake was. Thinking dragons could be kept under control. But a dragon's gonna do what a dragon's gonna do. It's their nature. And nature always wins. The old man said, before he walked away. Hiccup, when you become chief, please banish Mildew from Berk. Hiccup muttered. Strongly considering it. Hiccup replied. Suddenly the doors of the great hall opened, letting in cold air which caused the fireplace to be extinguished. Immediately, Toothless and Midnight shot plasma blasts to relight the fireplace. Oh. Thank you, Toothless and Midnight. A Viking woman said, grateful. The Night Furies warbled a, you're welcome, in reply. Right there is perfect proof that dragons can be very helpful. Hiccup commented, petting Midnight. Hiccup's eyes lit up as an idea came to him. You know sis, both you and Mildew are right. Hiccup raised her eyebrows in confusion. Huh. Think about it for a minute. Hiccup instructed. Hiccup did so, and the same idea came to her as well. Oh. Yeah, come on. Let's go get the others. Hiccup said and the twins ran off with the two Night Furies following them. I wonder what those two are planning. Midnight warbled to her mate while they ran. Whatever it is, I bet their father is not going to find out about it so soon. Toothless warbled in reply. In the arena, the rest of the teens were saying their goodbyes to their dragons before they closed the cages. Goodbye, Hookfang. Snotlout said sadly. I'm sorry, Stormfly. Astrid apologized, giving her dragon a hug. Now go. Reluctantly Stormfly followed the other dragons to their cages. Ah. Why do I have this feeling that something in my chest is hurting? Snotlout asked, touching his chest. It's called feeling heartbroken. Astrid replied. I don't have a heart. I'm not a girl. Snotlout said defensively. Everyone has a heart, Snotlout, even grown men. Rada said. She was about to pull the lever to close the gates when Hiccup's voice stopped her. Don't close it. He, Hiccup, Toothless and Midnight ran up to join the others. Don't close it. It's not over yet, Hiccup said. Why? Were you guys able to change your father's mind? Or are we going behind his back again? Something like that, Hiccup replied, a little nervous. If it's another act of rebel, I'm in. Rada said, getting excited. Listen to us. The dragons are gonna do what they're gonna do. They can't help, it's their nature. Hiccup started explaining. Instead of trying to stop them, we should learn how to work with them. Hiccup finished. The auburn-haired twins explained their new plan to the others. The next day, Bucket and Mulch were on a boat, trying to catch some fishes. Unfortunately, the two fishermen had no luck. Once again, no fishes. Mulch sighed. Did I eat them already? Was it good? Did I enjoy it? Oop, am I being too negative? Bucket asked, feeling a little confused. Hiccup and Snotlout then flew towards the boat on Toothless and Hookfang. Snotlout, time to go fishing. Hiccup ordered. Got it, Snotlout said, as he guided Hookfang to dive towards the ocean. Ah! Dragon attack! Bucket yelped as he ducked. The monstrous nightmare dived right into the ocean, scaring the fishes right into the nets. Yeah! Snotlout exclaimed. Hey! Thanks, Dragon. Mulch said, grateful that he and Bucket no longer have to spend hours catching fishes. That's right. That just happened. We did that. Snotlout yelled in triumph. Meanwhile, Hiccup is leading Astrid, Rada and Fishlegs to Mildew's cabbage field. Let's go guys. This way. Hiccup ordered. Huh? Mildew asked looking up. What are those kids up to now? Good afternoon, Mildew. Astrid greeted. Dragon gardening service. Rada announced. Astrid and Rada guided Stormfly and Sparkfire to use their tails to plow through the field. As soon as they did that, Hiccup and Midnight flew by scattering the seeds into the field. 3 o'clock. Time for the fertilizer, Hiccup said. Before Mildew could ask, many dragons, including Meatlug with Fishlegs, began flying over Mildew's field. Okay, Meatlug, let rip. Fishlegs exclaimed. The dragons immediately relieved themselves, providing good fertilizer for the field. Smile, Mildew. We just saved you 3 months of work, Hiccup said. And it is free of charge. Rada added before the teens flew off. In a forest, Rough and Tough were using Barf and Belch to fire explosives to herd some wild boars back into the barn. Yeah, that's how you do it. Hiccup cheered. Guys, we've just done a whole week of work under 1 hour. Rada said happily. I know. This is awesome. Fishlegs exclaimed. How did you two know this was gonna work? Astrid asked, Hiccup and Hiccup. Because they're dragons, it's their automatic reaction. We should use to our advantage instead of our disadvantage. Hiccup explained. You know who we should be thanking for this? Hiccup asked. She didn't get to answer her own question as the teens were suddenly confronted by an angry Mildew and a stern chief. There they are, Stoic. Those dragons don't look like they're in cages to me. Mildew said, pointing to the dragons. No. They are not. This is not what I asked for. Stoic agreed, he clearly did not like what he was seeing. Mildew is definitely not getting a thank you. Hiccup muttered. He is so going to be charged for the gardening service. Rada muttered. The teens all gathered at the arena wait Stoic and Gobber while the villagers watched from the stands. Both men had stern looks on their faces which left the teens wondering what was going to happen. Oh, no. What's Stoic gonna do to us? Is he going to arrest us? Fishlegs said worriedly. No way. I'm too pretty to go to jail. Roughnut complained. Ha, since when? Toughnut joked. His twin shoved him to the floor in retaliation. Stoic stood in front of the teens. You all disobeyed my orders and went behind my back, and there will be consequences. He said, looking at each and every teen. I told you two this could end badly. Astrid whispered to Hiccup and Hiccup. Neither of you ever listened to me. Hiccup steps in front of his father. Dad, I am the one who came up with this idea. Hiccup also stepped up. I didn't stop him, in fact, I even encouraged him, so I am also to be blamed here. All of you played a part here, therefore, you are all to be blamed here. Stoic said firmly. Mildew excitedly watched the scene unfold. Oh, here comes the good part, Fungus. It's about to get ugly. He said to his sheep that bayed in response. Stoik continued, you took over this place without my consent. You released the dragons even though I did not allow it. There is going to be a change around here. That's why I. He was interrupted by Gobber, who suddenly became excited. You kids are getting a dragon training academy. Mildew and the teens were dumbstruck by the announcement. Gobber. You spoiled the surprise. Stoik reprimanded. Sorry, Stoik, you know how excited I can get with surprises. The blacksmith apologized. But continue on. Well, you already told most of it. The chief pointed out. You forgot the part where you tell them about how proud you are of them. Gobber. Clearing his throat, Stoik turned to his children. Hiccup well, basically what he just said. You've all made me proud and you deserve this. This dragon training academy is for you. He then opens the cages, releasing all the dragons. Sparkfire, I'm so glad you're not leaving. Rada said happily as she hugged her dragon. Hookfang. My buddy. Snotlout cheered. Hey, Stormfly. I missed you so much. Astrid exclaimed. Meatlug. Oh, who's daddy's little baby? Oh, who's daddy's little? Fishlegs cooed to his dragon. Hey, bud. Hiccup said, as Toothless tackled him. Midnight. Hicka exclaimed, hugging her dragon. Mildew was not happy about this turn of events. Oh, one of these days, I will get those dragons off Berk. Now your next task is to train them. Stoik said happily. Not a problem, Dad. After all, Hicka and I have got them. Hiccup said, gesturing to Midnight and Toothless. Ahem. Astrid said, getting Hiccup's attention. And Rada trailed. And them as well. Hicka said smiling, gesturing to the rest of the dragon riders and their dragons. The teens spent the rest of the day happily with their dragons, glad that the dragons were not getting banished. Dragons can't change who they are. But who would want them to? Dragons are powerful, amazing creatures. The next day, Hookfang and Meatlug were hanging a sign with a drawing of a Night Fury courtesy of Rada in front of the arena. Berk Dragon Academy. Astrid read the sign. I like the sound of that. Nice touch, Ray. Hicka complimented. Thanks. Rada said, admiring her work. Chapter 2. Viking for Hire. Everybody needs a place in the world. Some people are born to theirs. Flashback to a ship with Viking warrior, led by Chief Stoik the Vast. Raise the mainsail. Turn her toward starboard. Stoik ordered. Aye, sir. Some people discover theirs. Another, more familiar, flashback is shown with Hiccup and Hicka touching Toothless and Midnight for the first time, creating the new bonds. And some people make a place for themselves. A third flashback shows the time when it was Vikings against dragons. The dragons are raiding the village again and Gobber is at the forge, making weapons for the warriors. Grab any weapon you see. Don't be picky. The blacksmith shouted, pushing the weapon cart. Gobber then grabs his own prosthetic weapon and charges into the battlefield. But then the world around them changes, and the place they made is gone. Back to the current day, where there is now peace between Vikings and dragons, Gobber is finishing another sword in the forge. Once he finished, he held it up admiring his work. But then he looked around and saw the Vikings and dragons interacting peacefully. With a sigh, he tossed the sword in the cart with the other weapons, realizing that no one needs weapons anymore. Meanwhile in the new Berk Dragon Academy, Hiccup and Hicka are quizzing the rest of the teens on dragons. The 6 teens are split into 2 teams. Astrid, Rada and Fishlegs on one team, and Snotlout, Roughnut and Toughnut on the other. Every species of dragons has its own unique abilities that sets them apart from other species of dragons. Which dragon makes the best welding torch? Hiccup asked to Team Astrid. Deadly Natter. Astrid and Rada said excitedly at the same time. Its magnesium flame burns with the heat of the sun. Fishlegs added with equal enthusiasm. Correct. Point to Team Astrid. Score is now 100 to 10. Hiccup announced while his sister added the score to the scoreboard. And you guys started out with 10. Astrid said to the Team Snotlout. Oh, yeah. Well, the game's not over. Toughnut retorted but then he got confused. Wait, what team am I on? Next question. This one should be easy for you guys. What is the shot limit of a hideous zippleback? Team Snotlout. Hicka said, reading her journal. Easy. For them. I don't think so. Rada said. Yeah, they can't even count that high. Astrid added causing Fishlegs to giggle. Roughnut smirked as an idea came to her. Oh, is that so? Let's see about that. Barf. Belch. The Thorsten twins Zippelback raised their heads at one of their riders' command and shot 6 consecutive fireballs at Team Astrid, who managed to duck behind the barrels in time. Looks like it's about 3. Toughnut said, holding 2 fingers up. He was oblivious to the fact that he just supported Astrid's statement. Told you we could count that high. Roughnut said, also oblivious. Yeah. Not quite. Hiccup said. The correct answer is 6, as Barf and Belch have just demonstrated. Since you gave half that number, you get half points. Yes. We're up to 30. We'll catch up in no time. Roughnut cheered, high-fiving her brother and Snotlout. Before either Hiccup or Hiccup could ask the next question, Astrid jumped over the barrel, not happy with being shot by fire. Alright, it's our turn. What happens when you shoot fire at one of the owners of a deadly natter? She then whistled for Stormfly, who shoots her tail spikes at Team Snotlout, pinning them to the wall. No fair. We didn't get to answer that. Toughnut complained, hanging from the wall. Snotlout managed to free himself from the wall and walked towards Hookfang. I've got a question. What happens when I set Hookfang on you? Chaos. Hiccup answered worriedly. Hiccup tried to avert the oncoming fight. Okay, guys, that's enough training for today. So, we made some really great progress. Snotlout ignores Hiccup and prepares to fight, prepare to face the wrath of a monstrous nightmare. Snotlout pats Hookfang's jaw, causing the dragon to suddenly rear up and set himself on fire, burning Snotlout's butt, causing the boy to panic. Seriously. Again. Snotlout shouted. He then jumps into a nearby water tub, extinguishing the fire. Ah, sweet relief. He sighed. This made Hiccup confused. Hookfang never flames up when you're on him. Is he okay? He asked. He seems fine now. Hiccup noted. Maybe he just realized who his owner is. Astrid said sarcastically. There's plenty of room here, Astrid. Snotlout said, flirting with Astrid. Astrid grabs his helmet and shoves him underwater in retaliation. Later on in the plaza, Gobber rallies a crowd, with Hiccup and Hiccup in it, and tries to get them interested in buying his weapons. Gather around. Come on, one and all. You may think these dragon-killing weapons have no more worth, but think again. They have more than one purpose. Like this long sword, for example. It is now a lovely butter knife. Gobber demonstrates this by using the sword to spread butter in on bread. However, the sword only succeeded in turning the bread into crumbs. It is also a bread shredder. Gobber said nervously, trying to cover it up. The plate then breaks. And a plate breaker. He then clears his throat. Moving on. Mildew, who is also in the crowd, comes up to the Haddock twins. Well, this is a dark day. A once great dragon slayer trying to pass off his well-crafted weapons as kitchen utensils. Tisk 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 tisk, he said in mock pity, causing the twins to glare at him. Gobber then holds up a mace. Up next, how about this? Quote. Gobber hesitated as he tried to find a purpose for the mace. He saw a fly on the table and got an idea, handy fly swatter. To demonstrate, Gobber brought the mace down and smashes the table, causing the crowd to gasp. No way were they going to use a mace for that, hee. Also good for chopping uneven tables. Gobber said. The fly he was trying to get then emerges from the wrecked table, completely unharmed. Gobber decides to move on and walks over to a large catapult. Now, I have saved the best for last. This is for the lady of the house. When the hubby's off pillaging, how are you to protect yourself from home invaders? Easy answer. Big Bertha. Suddenly, the catapult flings open, hurling a stone into Silent Sven's house. That was the last straw for the crowd, as they disperse while murmuring. Gobber frantically tries to get their attention again. Hey, wait. Come back. I have plenty of other useful weapons here. After seeing that everyone left uninterested, the blacksmith sighed, giving up. It's okay, Bertha. I will find you a home. He said, patting the catapult. Mildew decides to use this to guilt the Haddock twins. Ah, it's hard to watch. Especially for you two, Hiccup and Hiccup. The feelings of guilt must be tearing at your insides. I mean, you two were the cause of this, with your dragons. Poor man doesn't have a purpose anymore. He said mockingly, walking off. The twins continued to glare at him, but they can't help feeling that he may be right. Later that evening, Hiccup is in his bedroom with Hiccup, Toothless and Midnight, and he and sister discussed Gobber's dilemma. Hiccup sighed, You know this wouldn't have come if Gobber hadn't taught me how to design and build things. He said, gesturing to his prosthetic leg, he taught us everything we needed to know to make Toothless Tail, sis. We gotta find some way to help him. I agree, but how? Hiccup asked. Their discussion was interrupted when their dad entered the house, very exhausted. He set his helmet down and took a seat. Hiccup comes downstairs to greet him. Long day of chiefing, Dad? Hiccup asked. Stoic sighed, I was all over the island, again. I married the Svensson girl to the Odegaard boy at dawn. Then I went down to the field to stop some kids from yak tipping, again. Then I was called back to the newlyweds to settle a domestic dispute. I guess that honeymoon's over already. Stoic said as Hiccup brought him a mug of ale, while Hiccup put more logs in the fire. Something to look forward to when your time comes, huh bro? Hiccup whispered to her brother. Ah. Don't remind me. Hiccup whispered back. Sometimes I wish there were two of me. Stoic wished. This gave Hiccup an idea. Dad, there are two of you. Hiccup thought about her brother's statement for a second and caught on to his idea. He's right. Stoic, however, got the wrong idea. Are you two making another joke about my weight again? He demanded. No, I mean Gobber. He can be the other you. Hiccup explained. Yeah, he can take half of your work. Hiccup added. Gobber. Well, he's way too busy making all those dragon killing. He started to say, but he realized what he was going to say when he saw the look on his kids' faces. Well, used to be, until you, realizing that what he was going to say next wasn't any better, Stoic skipped to the point, which is great. Except for Gobber. Exactly our point. Hiccup stated. Stoic considers this before saying, you know, that's actually not such a bad idea. I could use a right hand. Which works out great, 'cause that's kind of the only one he has. Hiccup joked. Which makes him perfect for the job. Hiccup said. The next day, Stoic asked Gobber to be his right-hand man. Gobber immediately accepted and the two men went to the plaza and discussed the plan for the day. I greatly appreciate you helping me out, Gobber. Stoic said to his friend. I'm just glad I could find time in my busy schedule, Stoic. Gobber lied. Knowing his friend doesn't actually have a busy schedule, Stoic ignored that. He then takes out a small sheet of paper with all the tasks needed to be done and splits in half, one for him and one for Gobber. We've got a lot to do today. So this is your half of tasks. He said, handing one half of the paper to Gobber. Okay, these tasks look simple enough. Gobber said, looking at his half of the paper. Now remember, some of these situations are delicate. They require diplomacy. Stoic informed him. Ah, not a problem. I can do just that. Gobber said optimistically. That caught Stoic by surprise, really. You are able to talk to people with tact and sensitivity. It seemed that Gobber thought diplomacy meant something else. Oh, that's what diplomacy means. I thought it meant hit first and ask questions later. But I can try it your way. He shrugged. Stoic watched his friend walk away and sighed. He hoped he made the right choice. In the Great Hall, Gobber is leading a naming ceremony for a newborn baby. Whosoever brings this child forth into the hooligan tribe, let he be known. The parents step forward, bringing their newborn baby. Gobber cradled the baby in his real hand. As a representative of the chief, I welcome this baby into the hooligan tribe. And pronounce the name to be. Gobber paused as the father whispered the baby's name, Hildegard. She doesn't look like one, we'll name her Magnus. But she's a girl, Gobber. The mother said, offended. Don't worry, she's not gonna look like one. Magnus it is. Gobber said in reassurance. It didn't really make things better for the parents, and please accept this teething toy on behalf of Stoic the Vast. He said, holding up a mace. No. The mother yelled, horrified, taking her baby and holding her close. Later, Gobber is at Mulch and Bucket's house, trying to settle a dispute between the two. Bucket says you bought a sheep from him, but you have not paid up. Gobber said to Mulch. I have never bought any sheep from him. Mulch said defensively. But his lie was caught as a baa is heard and a sheep is seen behind Mulch. Who's that? A little woman. Gobber asked sarcastically. Oh, Mulch. You're cheating me now. Bucket said, hurt by this. All right men, there is only one clear way to handle this. Gobber declared. He then handed a hammer to Bucket and a mace to Mulch. Gobber walks out, leaving the two farmers, fishermen to fight it out. There's an awkward moment of silence before the two raise their weapons. Outside, Gobber smiles and crosses an item off his list. This diplomacy is like replacing my prosthetics. Okay, what's next? He then went on to his next task, which was to repair one of the boats. Gobber, however, had a different idea on repairing the boat. He used metal slabs on the boat instead. I know the conventional thinking when repairing a ship is wood. But if you ask me, there's nothing like a good, old slab of iron. Ha! Nothing's getting through this, Gobber said to a nearby Viking. Stoik, along with Hildegard, Magnus's parents, Mulch, and Bucket, approaches Gobber. It was clear that the chief had a talk with all four people. Gobber. What are you doing? Stoik asked in frustration. Just finishing another task, Gobber said smiling, oblivious to the problems he had created. He then takes out his list and checks off the recent task. He taps the ship once with his hammer hand. The ship suddenly slips off the dock and into the water, where the weight of the iron only makes it sink. And adding a new item on the list. Recover and fix sunken ship. He said, adding it to the list. Same time tomorrow. Gobber asked the chief nonchalantly. Stoik sighs in exasperation. That evening, Stoik is placing 2 blocks of ice on his head, trying to ease the headache caused by the added amount of work, thanks to Gobber. Hiccup hands him a mug of ale. Here you go, Dad. Hiccup said. He looks at the ice block. Wow. A 2-block headache. You know, Dad, Hiccup and I think you were a bit tough on Gobber. It was his only first day. Tomorrow will be a different story. Oh, it definitely will be, because Gobber will not be a part of it. Stoik declared. What? Hiccup asked, confused. It was just his first day, Dad. He just needs time to learn how to handle things properly. Hiccup said, trying to defend her mentor. Stoik removed his ice block. Forget it, I tried to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it sunk a ship and named a baby girl Magnus. Now I'm not saying she didn't look like a Magnus, but try telling that to her parents. I can't believe you fired him just like that. We need to help him. Hiccup said. We don't have to do anything. You and Hiccup, on the other hand, are going to be very busy finding a job for Gobber. Stoik said, to his children's surprise and dismay. The next day, the teens and their dragons are gathered at the academy as Hiccup tells them their newly made plan. You're bringing Gobber here? Fishlegs asked cautiously. He's gonna be great. Gobber knows a lot about dragons by studying them. This can really help us be better dragon trainers. Hiccup said, trying to sound optimistic. Yeah, he would know a lot more about dragons' strengths and weaknesses than Hiccup and I would. That can be helpful. Hiccup said with equal optimism. Something tells me this isn't going to end well. Rada said. Suddenly, the door burst open and in comes Gobber, lugging a whole cart full of weapons. The dragons are clearly intimidated at the sight of the weapons. What was he going to with them? Ready for training, Gobber said cheerfully. There it is, Rada said, sighing as her prediction seems more and more likely. Hiccup walked up to his mentor, weary about the fact that he brought weapons. First of all, welcome. And second, tiny question, why did you bring your, weapons? I thought maybe we could motivate them by threatening to kill them. Gobber explained, taking out an unusual looking sword mixed with an axe and a mace. That's how my daddy taught me to swim. He slams the weapon into the ground, breaking the ground. Class is in session, students. That did it for the dragons, as all of them, except for Toothless and Midnight, flew out of the arena, deciding to skip today's lesson. I'm out of here, Hookfang. I'm calling in sick today, Meatlug. This guy is crazy, Sparkfire. That's an understatement, Stormfly. Everyone dragon for themselves, barf. I'm with you, Belch. Rada, Astrid, Snotlout, Fishlegs, Roughnut and Toughnut ran after their dragons. I didn't like school either. Gobber said, shrugging, oblivious to the reason why the dragons left. Hiccup and Hiccup waited at the academy, hoping that the other riders would come back. They were about to go look for them when Astrid, Rada, Roughnut and Toughnut came back with their dragons. What's wrong with you guys? Hiccup asked, noticing the 4 teens' discomforts when they got off their dragons. We've been riding our dragons for 4 hours. Astrid groaned, glaring at Stormfly. It took forever to chase them down after Gobber scared them away. Some of us took more time than others finding them. Rada said, glaring at Sparkfire. Sorry. Sparkfire. He had a weird axe mace type weapon, Stormfly. Hiccup sighed, Yeah, Hika and I are sorry about that. We just don't know what to do with him. We need find him something for him that's more in his forte. Hika said. They then see Roughnut kicking Toughnut's butt. Do you guys always have to fight? Hika asked. Hiccup and I don't even fight half as much as you two do. It's okay. I asked her to do that. I was just trying to get the feeling back. Toughnut informed them. After Roughnut finished kicking him, she bends down. You gonna return the favor or what? Hika and I have flown for hours on Toothless and Midnight and neither of us ever had a problem. Hiccup said confused. That's because both of you have saddles. Astrid said miserably. This gave the Haddock twins another idea, saddles. They said in unison. They went to the forge, where Gobber was, and told their mentor their new plan. Saddles. I love it. I've got so many ideas. Gobber said excitedly. He took a look at the Haddock twins' drawings and tosses them aside, but not like these. Good ones. Hika and I are glad you're excited about this. Hiccup said. But we still think there are some things in our designs you could use. I mean, you did teach us everything we know. Exactly. That's why you should let Gobber do what Gobber does best. I've been making saddles since you were in diapers. In fact, I made your diapers. Gobber informed them. Okay. That's information that's better off not knowing. Hika said, shaking her head. Hiccup ignored that and tried to get his point across. I know you know what you're doing. But keep in mind, every dragon is different. So you need to adjust the hiccup. Gobber said, interrupting him. Hiccup. I just think. Up. I may have taught you and Hika everything you two know, but I haven't taught you two everything I know. Gobber informed him. He's got a point, bro. He's been a blacksmith even before we were born. Hiccup pointed out. Hiccup decides to give in and leaves with his sister. Gobber then got to work on the designs for the saddles. Later on in the night Hiccup, Hika, Toothless and Midnight could hear Gobber singing in the forge while working. I've got my axe. And I've got my mace. And I love my wife with the ugly face. I'm a Viking through and through. You know, he only sings that song when he wants to celebrate something. This new plan is really working out well. Hiccup said hopeful. It will be interesting to see what kind of saddles he'll make for tomorrow, considering he's not going with our designs. Hika said. The next day at the academy, the teens and their dragons are gathered to see Gobber's handiwork. Alright, this is an exciting day for all of us. Gobber has been working hard to, Hiccup started to announce. Gobber interrupted him, let them hear some words from the blacksmith himself. He proudly continued the announcement, I've made a lot of saddles in my day. Horse, donkey and now, dragon. But these saddles are special. They're like my children, that is if you strapped your child to a flaming reptile and rode it. So without further ado, he unveils the saddles. Unfortunately, Hiccup and Hika noticed that these saddles were a bit different. Wow, Gobber. This is certainly not what Hika or I would come up with. Hiccup said surprised. Gobber, not understanding what Hiccup meant replied cheerfully, how could it be? I'm Gobber. Nobody knows what it's like to live in here. He tapped his head with his prosthetic hand. Unfortunately, that is true. Hika muttered, now worried about the outcome of this. Hiccup notices the saddle design for Snotlout and saw that it had an added feature. Is that what I think it is? He stuttered. Yep. Flamethrower. Gobber said. He gave a demonstration of the flamethrower. Took you by surprise, huh? Definitely. Especially since it's for fire-breathing dragons. Hiccup replied. I know, but can ya ever really have too much firepower? Gobber asked, still not understanding Hiccup's point. For a dragon with the ability to coat itself with flames. Hika asked rhetorically. The Thorsten twins loaded large rocks into each of their catapults that were built on their saddles and launched them, only to have both Barf and Belch struck in the head. They fall to the ground. Ow! Roughnut yelled as she fell off her dragon's head. Really? You gave catapults to Roughnut and Toughnut? Hika asked, raising her eyebrows. Gobber just shrugs. Gobber. Rada called out, getting their attention. How am I supposed to get on this thing? She asked, looking at her saddle strapped onto Sparkfire. The saddle was outlined with spikes, making it impossible for the raven-haired girl to get on the saddle without getting stabbed. Fishleg's saddle is equipped with 4 large maces, which Meatlug has a hard time staying above ground with. You can do it, girl. Think light. Fishlegs said, encouraging his dragon. Meatlug got tired and fell to the ground. Oh, Come on. You can't tell me my saddle is heavier than Fishlegs. Gobber said. My mom says I'm just husky. Fishlegs replied sensitively. Snotlout tries to put his flamethrower saddle on Hookfang, but the dragon refuses, throwing it off and thrashing around. Come on, Hookfang. What's wrong with you? Snotlout asked, getting frustrated. He tried putting his hand on Hookfang's snout, but the dragon just turned away. That's it. I'm trading dragons. Who wants to take Hookfang? Let's see. Should I trade my perfect dragon for the angry monstrous nightmare? Toughnut asked sarcastically. No deal, Snot. Rada said. It seemed that only one saddle was working perfectly for the rider and the dragon. This saddle's actually pretty good. Astrid commented as she flew around Stormfly with the saddle on. Try the horn. Gobber told her. Oh no. Hicka said, covering her ears just in case. Astrid blows into the horn, which increased in size. The bigger it is, the more amplified the sound is. This startles Stormfly and she sends spines flying, pinning Snotlout to the wall, much to the Jorgensen boys' dismay. Really? Again? Snotlout complained. Seeing how this was turning out, Hiccup turned to his mentor. So, anyway, I think we're really gonna need to make a few changes. Gobber said, interrupting him with a smile. I'm way ahead of you. I've got so many ideas. It's getting crowded up here. He chuckled, pointing to his head. Hiccup and Hicka exchange a look of worry. After the session finished and everyone left, Hiccup and Hicka stayed back to clean up the arena, which is now full of burn marks. My Odin. And I thought it looked messy when we were killing dragons. Stoik said as he entered the arena, looking around in surprise. It does look like a battle just took place. Hicka admitted, looking around. More like Gobber came by. Hiccup said. Well, you know Gobber. He has good intentions, but it usually goes better in his head. So what are you two going to do? Stoik asked his children. We're going to clean up his messes and redo his work. Hiccup said and his sister nodded in agreement. Stoik sighed. Look, Gobber's like family. We are aware of that, Dad. Which is why we are not saying anything about it. Hicka said. That's where you are wrong. You two need to say something about this. It's not fair to Gobber or either of you if you don't. Stoik explained. You have a point. Hicka admitted. Hiccup started getting frustrated. Why do we have to say something to him? You didn't. You just passed him off to us. That's what the chief does, he delegates. Stoik said. Look, I gave you two this academy because it's the best thing for Berk. And you two are proving that. Now you guys have to do what's best for the academy. And I'm sorry, but what's best is very rarely what's easy. Yeah, we noticed. Hicka said, dreading what she and her brother will have to tell their mentor. As Stoik walked his children out of the academy, he noticed Snotlout still hanging on the wall by the natter spikes. He seemed to be asleep. What about him? Leave him. He's going for a record. Hiccup informed him. He figured, if it's going to happen to him a lot then he might as well try. Hicka said. Enough said. Stoik said, deciding to let his nephew be. Well, here we go. It's now or never. Hicka said as she midnight, Toothless and Hiccup stood outside the forge. Hey, you never know. Maybe we don't have to fire him. Maybe Gobber decided to look at our plans and make the saddles better. A small explosion was then heard inside the forge. You were saying? Hicka asked. Or not? Hiccup sighed. The Haddock twins then went inside the forge and saw Gobber raising a crossbow at them. Gobber. Don't shoot. Hiccup exclaimed. Don't be crazy, Hiccup. I wouldn't shoot either you or your sister unless I absolutely had to. Gobber replied. That didn't make either of the twins feel better. Good to know, but why don't you just give the crossbow a rest? Hicka said. Gobber put the crossbow down and turned to the twins. You know, about the weapons, maybe the catapults were a bit much for some of the dragons. He said. So I'm changing the design. I've gotten rid of the two big ones. Gobber, that's great. Hiccup said. Maybe they didn't have to say no to their mentor after all. Quote. And replaced them with 6 little ones. Or maybe they do. Not great. Hicka deadpanned. Hiccup decided to tell the news. Yeah, Gobber about that. Hicka, and I think it might be time for you to take a little break. In case you hadn't noticed, the only time a Viking takes a break is to die. Gobber informed him. That can't be true. Hicka muttered. Hiccup tried again. Maybe, break, is the wrong word. What I mean is, we are not sure things are working out. Well, Get back to me when you're sure. Gobber said, oblivious to what Hiccup was trying to. Hiccup decided to help out her brother. Gobber, what Hiccup means is that we think you should retire from the saddle project. Gobber turned to Hiccup and Hiccup, finally realizing what they were trying to say, or you two getting rid of me. Now I see why you had me put down the crossbow. He said sadly. It's just from working on the saddles. It's not really working out. But that doesn't mean you can't do anything else. Hiccup said quickly. Yeah, I'm sure there's something out there for you. Hiccup added. I don't need either of your pity. I've lost an arm and a leg. I think I'll survive losing a job. Gobber said, walking off. We really sorry, Gobber. Hiccup called out. We really are. Hiccup said as Gobber moved out of their sight. Hiccup turned to his sister. Well, that was awful. I know. I feel so bad. Hiccup said, feeling guilty. I don't know what could be worse than that. They then heard a roar and saw Hookfang on a rampage, probably whatever that is. You just had to say that, didn't you, bro? Hiccup said, sighing. Snotlout then came running over to them. I can not believe that. I am saying this, he said, panting, but Hiccup. Hiccup, help me. In the village, Hookfang continued his rampage, alarming all the villagers nearby. Clear away from the area. The dragon is on a rampage. Stoic ordered. I don't know what happened. 1 minute, everything was okay. Then I started rubbing his face, which he loves, then he went crazy. Snotlout explained, my dragon hates me. They do say a pet starts to take on the characteristics of its owner. That could explain what's going on here. Fishlegs guessed. Hey. Snotlout retaliated by punching Fishlegs in the stomach. Yeah, case in point. Fishlegs wheezed, putting his hands on his stomach. Maybe there's something wrong with him, medically. Hiccup said, turning to his sister, the aspiring healer. Think you can figure it out? Sure, if I can avoid getting burnt. Hiccup replied, watching as Hookfang fire at everything in sight. An idea then came to her. When was the last time he ate? She asked Snotlout. Not for days. Snotlout answered. That must be it. Hookfang must be starving. Hiccup guessed. Hiccup calmly walked towards Hookfang taking a raw fish with him. Are you hungry, boy? He gave the fish to Hookfang. The dragon ate it, but immediately spit it out, causing it to land on Stoic's beard. Oh, sorry, Dad. Hiccup apologized. Or maybe not. Hiccup said. Sighing, Stoic took the fish out of his beard and tossed it to Toothless, who ate it up. We've got to bring this dragon under control. Don't worry. Hiccup and I can do this. Hiccup said, reassuring his dad. Easy, Hookfang. It's just us. Your friends, Hiccup and Hiccup. Hiccup said, trying to soothe the dragon. That's right. Everything is gonna be okay. Hiccup said, patting Hookfang on the side of his mouth. Suddenly, Hookfang roared and blasted fire at the twins. Hiccup, run. Astrid screamed. Get out of there quick. Rada yelled. Got it. Way ahead of you. Toothless and Midnight then attacked Hookfang. Both were angry at him for attacking their humans. Toothless. Stop. Midnight. Stand down. Hiccup and Hiccup both rushed to their dragons to calm them down. I've seen enough, Hiccup and Hiccup. I'm sorry. We tried it your way. Stoic said. He then left, knowing what needed to be done. Gobber. We need you. Stoic said as he came to the blacksmith's house. No, you don't. Nobody needs me. Nobody needs any of us. Not even you, Bertha. Gobber said sadly, looking at his catapult. Are you crying? Stoic asked, noticing tears in his friend's eyes. Course not. I had just chopped some onions. Gobber answered, rubbing his eyes. There are no onions. Not anymore, thanks to this. Gobber said, holding his sword. There's a dragon in the plaza that's out of control. Stoic informed him. Then why don't you call Hiccup or Hiccup? Or both? No, Gobber, we need you. The chief said firmly. Back at the plaza, the teens tried to come up with a plan to stop Hookfang. We have got to get Hookfang under control fast. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Hiccup urged. He then noticed Snotlout pointing at something. Snotlout, you have a suggestion? I wish I did. Snotlout whispered, paling. Stand back, kids. I'm here to put an end to this. Gobber announced, armed with weapons. He's gonna kill my dragon. Snotlout said, getting upset. You don't know that. Hiccup said, trying to reassure his cousin. Yeah, we do know that. Toughnut said. He's got sharp, pointy weapons. I'm pretty sure you don't use a sword to butter toast. Roughnut said. Well, I mean, we would definitely, but you don't. Toughnut added. Guys, not helping at all. Rada hissed at the Thorsten twins. Dad, you can't do this. Hookfang is Snotlout's dragon. There has to be another way. Hiccup said, trying to stop them. I'm sorry, Hiccup, but sometimes you have to fall back on the old ways. Gobber said grimly. But he's a good dragon. Hiccup pleaded. He's a good dragon. Snotlout repeated in a whisper. There's probably just something wrong with him. Hiccup said. There's definitely something wrong with him. Snotlout said, on the verge of tears. There has to be a reason Hookfang is acting like this. We should have him checked out before we do anything drastic. Hiccup begged. Hiccu's right, we have to figure out what's wrong with him. We can't just get rid of him because he's having a bad day. Hiccup added. A bad day for a dragon can be a disaster for us. That's not a risk I am willing to take. Stoik said before turning to his friend, Gobber. Gobber nodded and attacked Hookfang. The dragon tried to retaliate by blasting fire at him, but no fire came out. Ha! You're all out of fire. Gobber said. He used this opportunity to shoot bullets, which succeeded in capturing the dragon. Gobber then made his way for the kill. The Haddock twins looked at each other and nodded. I can't let you do this. Hiccup said, as he moved to stop Gobber. Neither can I, Hiccup said, joining her brother. They both latched themselves onto Gobber's arm. Let go, kids. This needs to be done. Gobber said, struggling. Struggling against his bonds, Hookfang roared in their faces, causing the three of them to stop and stare at his mouth. Whoa. Hiccup said, surprised by what she saw. Do you see what I see? Gobber asked. Yeah. Hiccup replied. He and his sister then let go of Gobber's arm. The blacksmith looked at the monstrous nightmare with a determined look on his face. Time to put this beast out of its misery. Gobber said before charging at the dragon. Hiccup. Hiccup. You guys are going to let him do this? Astrid asked, shocked by their actions. Hiccup just held out his hand in response. Don't worry, Astrid. It's going to be fine. Hiccup said. All of them watched as Gobber jumped on Hookfang's snout. After a bit of struggle, Hookfang threw the blacksmith to the ground. Though it seemed that the dragon was finally calm. Ah, you didn't kill him, Snotlout said in relief. For a toothache. What kind of monster do you think I am? Gobber asked, holding up the tooth. Snotlout happily ran to his dragon, who lifted him up with his snout. However, seeing the others looking at him, Snotlout regained his composure. Stop it. Stop it. He got off Hookfang's snout. I don't know where that came from. Do you think you can train that out of him or? He asked, earning eye rolls from everyone. Yeah, sure. We'll work on that, Hiccup said sarcastically. Thank you, Gobber. All this trouble for a bad tooth. Who would have thought of that? I wouldn't have, Hiccup said. Me neither, Hiccup admitted. That's because neither of you are Gobber. I've forgotten more about dragons than most men will ever know. Gobber replied, well, better go keep all this safe. He referred to his weapons and started to walk away, when Hiccup and Hiccup got an idea. Gobber. Wait. Hiccup called out. Who says you have to put them away? Hiccup asked. Gobber turned back at them smiling, already knowing what they have in store for him. The next day, he started his newest job, a dragon dentist. When the world around you changes, the good men find a way to change with it. And Gobber is one of those good men. In fact, he's one of the best. I've got my axe. And I've got my mace. And I love my wife with the ugly face. I'm a Viking through and through. Augish. Chapter 3. Animal House. Here on Berk, we made peace with the dragons. It was another normal day for Berk. Well, normal, as in Vikings and dragons were both living comfortable on one island without any chaos. Or finally living and working together. And it only took us 300 years. There's one slight problem, we forgot to tell the animals. Suddenly, a deadly natter and a monstrous nightmare flew right into each other and started a fight. They both landed on a farm to continue fighting each other. They were so absorbed in their argument that they did not notice the terrified expressions of the animals on the farms. The sheeps immediately scatter. Mulch and Bucket then came towards the farm. Oh, not again. Get out of here. Now. Shoo. Mulch said as he and Bucket shooed both the dragons out of the farm. After the two dragons had left, the two farmers then turned their attention back to the animals. Alright, everybody, time to earn your keep. Bucket went to the chickens to collect the eggs. But when he lifted one of the chickens, he got confused when he didn't find any eggs. Eggs come from chickens, right? Do I need to explain everything to you again? Mulch sighed, exasperated. No. Bucket replied, but he contradicted himself a second later when he lifted up a sheep. Mulch rolled his eyes. Apparently I do. Alright, listen up, Bucket. He then pointed to each and every animal. Wool. Eggs. Milk. Was that so hard now? See. The blank expression on his friend's face gave the answer. Mulch sighed again in exasperation. Ah. Just watch and learn, again. The shorter farmer grabbed a stool and sat near the yak's side. Just grab the udder, like so, and pull. He pulled the udder, but no milk came. Ah, pull. He tried again and got the same result. Pull. This time he did it more forcefully, causing the yak to kick the farmer away in retaliation. Oh, I think we're empty. That's not good. Meanwhile, Hiccup, Astrid, Toothless and Stormfly were riding down a snowy mountain trying out a new sport they call dragon boarding. And the trial seemed to be successful. Yahoo! Ha ha ha. Both teens and dragons were having the time of their lives. Then Astrid had a mischievous glint in her eyes. She silently commanded Stormfly to shoot spikes at Hiccup and Toothless, and the Natter complied, causing the duo behind to swerve in order to avoid the spikes. Whoa. Hey, Astrid. What gives? Hiccup yelled. That was mean. Toothless warbled. Oops, did I do that? Sorry. Astrid said innocently, looking not so sorry. Ha, ha. We're winning. Stormfly squawked. Hiccup decided to retaliate by having Toothless skid down to Stormfly's side. The male Night Fury then extended high wing, blocking Astrid's view. Hey. What are you doing? I can't see. Astrid shouted, trying to get a better view. Astrid, are we supposed to skid into that? Stormfly squawked, still able to see ahead of her. Toothless then moved his wing in time for Astrid to see the snow-covered branch. Ah. She was then met with a face full of snow. So that's how it's going to be like, huh? Astrid yelled, wiping the snow off her face. I have no idea what you're talking about. Hiccup replied while Toothless gave a dragon-like chuckle. Take that. Not wanting Hiccup to get the last laugh, Astrid made Stormfly blast a pile of snow in Hiccup and Toothless' path, causing the duo to spin uncontrollably. Astrid. Mayday. Mayday. That one was her idea. But I liked it, so I let her. Ha ha. Astrid shouted as she and Stormfly were once again in the lead. But the fun and games were short-lived as Hiccup noticed an avalanche coming right behind them. Oh. Hiccup tried to push the stirrup, but Toothless still remained on the ground. Oh no. The tail's frozen. Astrid. Astrid turned to see what Hiccup was trying to tell her. As soon as her eyes went to the avalanche, the young shield maiden had her dragon take off from the ground. Hiccup and Toothless, however, weren't so lucky. The boy was moving to the Night Fury's tail to try break the prosthetic tail out of the ice. Astrid then saw that Hiccup and Toothless were skiing right into a trench. Hiccup. She immediately flew Stormfly to Hiccup's side. No. Go back. Hiccup shouted. But Astrid didn't listen as she got closer and extended her arm for him to take. Hiccup took it, but it was too late as the four of them fell right into the trench and into the darkness. Astrid. Hiccup called out in the darkness. Over here. Astrid replied, shivering. Hiccup, I'm freezing. Come here. A scuffling noise was heard. Hiccup then realized something. Where are the dragons? He got his answer when the male Night Fury shot a plasma blast from above. Toothless. The blast was then followed by a burst of magnesium flame. Stormfly. Astrid called out. The two dragons continued to shoot fire above until a ray of sunlight shone down, revealing that the Night Fury and the deadly Natter used their wings to shield the two kids away from the snow, creating a snow dome. I see daylight. Hiccup said, relieved. We're gonna get out of here. Astrid said, equally happy. The two teens looked at their dragons at awe. Look what they did. We didn't even tell them to do anything. Hiccup noted. Yeah, they saved our lives. Astrid said, grateful. It was then that the two teens looked at each other and realized that they were hugging each other to keep warm. Blushing, the two teens separated and felt awkward. That was, so. Hiccup stuttered, trying to say a correct sentence. So, we're good now. He finally managed. Gee, good as new. Good thing your sister wasn't here to see that. Astrid said. And Rada. Hiccup added. If those two girls ever found out about this moment, they would never let Hiccup and Astrid live it down. Astrid then punched Hiccup on the shoulder to get some normalcy back. Ow. Back to the farm, Mulch and Bucket called Stoik and Gobber and informed them about the new crisis. Gobber was examining the yaks. There it is, He then finished and walked to the rest of the men. Just as I thought, the yaks are not giving any milk. The chief sighed. We know that, Gobber. Bucket and Mulch already told us that. We need to know the reason behind it. Gobber thought about this for a minute. This reminds me of the time I moved my mother in with my goat. She was mean, ornery, ate everything in sight. The goat was so scared of her, she couldn't give milk. So, what are you saying by that, Gobber? Stoik asked confused. Mothers and goats don't mix. Gobber stated. That's the same case with farm animals and dragons. We stopped fighting dragons, so now they're around all the time. The animals are spooked. Then, as if to prove the blacksmith's point, a monstrous nightmare flew right by 3 of the sheeps in the farm and the sheeps responded by dropping to the ground like flies. Like I said, spooked. Gobber repeated. Suddenly Bucket gave out a loud groan and clutched the bucket on his head in pain. Oh. Your bucket's not tightening up on ya, is it? Mulch asked worriedly. No, I'm just. Bucket tried to say, but his bucket tightened even more. Fiend. This is not good. Whenever his bucket gets tight it means a storm is going to come. Mulch explained to Gobber and Stoik. No it doesn't. There's no storm, everything's fine. Bucket said frantically. Bucket. Mulch reprimanded. I don't want there to be a storm. If lightning strikes me Bucket, I could end up less intelligent. Bucket said. Mulch checked the bucket. Oh, ho. That's one tight bucket. And the tighter the bucket is, the bigger the storm will be. Stoik finds this hard to believe, but that's crazy. It is way too early for a storm to hit. And since when does a bucket predict storms? That's what chicken bones and goose feet are for. Gobber added. If you recall that bucket of his predicted the blizzard of Olaf. Mulch reminded them. That was a bad one. Bucket remembered. We spent a week just to dig mildew out. And the rest of our lives to wonder why we bothered. Mulch sighed. Trust the bucket, Stoik. How about you trust the bucket while I go get a second, more reliable opinion? Stoik replied knowing exactly where to go. He and Gobber made their way right to the elderly, Gothi, hut. Gothi, I've come for your counsel. Is there going to be a storm? The elderly replied by opening a bag of sand on the floor and drawing some pictures in it. What's she saying, Gobber? Stoik asked, as the blacksmith was one of the few people who could translate Gothi's symbols. She says, what do you think? Gobber replied. Both men shared an look of confusion and looked back at the Gothi. The elderly rolled her eyes and pointed to her house which had its doors and windows sealed shut. The 2 men were surprised to have missed that. How do you know for sure? Stoik asked. Was it the chicken bones? Or the goose feet? Gothi drew in the sand while Gobber read. She says she could hear buckets screaming all the way up here. Looks like the bucket is more reliable than the chief and the blacksmith thought. At one of the watchtowers, Hiccup and Astrid had gathered Hiccup, Snotlout, Rada and Fishlegs and enthusiastically told them the incident at the mountains. And then the dragons used their wings to block the snow. Hiccup finished. I've never heard of anything like that. Not even in the Book of Dragons. Fishlegs said excited to learn something new about the dragons. Me neither, this is one to add in the books. Hiccup said, taking out her notebook. It was incredible. Astrid exclaimed. It's as if their protective instincts just kicked into gear. It's funny isn't it? The dragons we've been fighting for years were the ones who came to our rescue. Hiccup said, looking at Toothless and Stormfly in amazement. Yeah, if it's Stormfly and Toothless didn't help us, Hiccup and I would have frozen to death. Astrid agreed. You know, you two could have used your own bodies to keep each other warm. Fishlegs suggested innocently. Looks like Hiccup and Astrid omitted a part of their story as the 2 teens once again realized how close they were and moved away quickly. Why would anyone do that? That's just crazy. Unfortunately for those 2, Hiccup and Rada noticed the sudden change in positions and the uneasiness in their tones and exchanged smirks. You know what? It looks like Hiccup and Astrid forgot to mention something. Rada said smirking at the blushing duo. I think you're right, Ray. Hiccup, Astrid, is there something you guys like to share with us? Hiccup asked, acting innocently. Luckily, for Astrid and Hiccup, Snotlout decided to cut in. Hey, Astrid, if you need some warmth. Astrid's embarrassment quickly turned into annoyed as she answered by hitting the post of a catapult above the teens, causing a pile of snow on the catapult to fall on Snotlout. Hey! Snotlout shouted in a muffled voice. That's when Roughnut and Toughnut came to the watchtower. Hey, Hiccup. Hiccup. Your father's looking for you too. Toughnut said. He looked angry. Roughnut informed the Auburn twins. He's looked angry since the day we were born. Hiccup said with a sigh. But I'm sure there's no connection. 99% chance there is no connection. Hiccup said. As soon as the Haddock twins reached their house, Stoik wasted no time telling his children the dilemma. There's a bad storm coming. We could be locked in. We might not be able to hunt or fish for months. But that can't be. It's way too early for a storm. Hiccup argued. We're in the middle of winter. Devastating winter isn't due for another month. Hiccup agreed. Yeah, Hiccup and I should know that. We're the ones usually getting sick around that time. Well, Gothi says differently, and you two know better than to bet against her. Stoik said. Well, what are Hiccup and I supposed to do? We can't control the weather. We could sing, snow, snow, go away. Hiccup suggested with humor. I don't need you two to control the weather. I need you two to control the dragons. If they don't stop scaring the animals, we won't have any provisions to live on. Just then Mulch and Bucket came in. Ah, any luck? Stoik asked, hopeful. Not a drop. Mulch said dejectedly. And this is after yanking on that poor yak for 3 hours. But it's not like the dragons are trying to be scary. I mean, they don't even eat farm animals. They eat fish. Hiccup defended. Yeah, Hiccup and I have been working on this whole dragons aren't dangerous thing. They don't even try to attack the animals. Hiccup supported. True, but the dragons are still huge, breathe fire, and now that we've made peace with them, they're everywhere. Gobber listed. The animals are terrified of them. Here's where you two jump in and say, we'll fix this. Stoik said to his children. Okay. But how long do we have before the storm hits? About a week. Mulch said, checking the bucket. That's plenty of time to come up with a plan and execute it. Hiccup noted with relief. Hiccup agreed, yep. No problem at all. Suddenly, Bucket gave out a large cry of pain. Correction. 3 days, 6 hours. Mulch said, after checking the bucket again. Okay, less time, might be more of a problem. Hiccup said, getting a little worried. Less planning, more executing. Hiccup added. The Auburn twins went out and immediately gathered the other dragon riders, the dragons and the farm animals into the academy. Okay, listen up guys, a storm is coming up and we need to get the animals to stop being scared of the dragons if we want to survive the storm. Hiccup explained. But storms don't usually come around this time. Fishlegs pointed. How do you guys know it's coming? Is Bucket's head tightening? Rada asked. Yes. Hiccup answered suspiciously. It's definitely coming. And it'll be a bad one, so we need to start right away. Rada declared. You believe in the Bucket prediction too? Hiccup asked in shock. After the blizzard of Olaf, definitely. Rada said firmly. The Auburn twins looked at each other. First Gothi, now Rada. Maybe there is more to the Bucket than they thought. Hiccup shook his head and started on their mission. Come on, big boy. You can do it. Come on. He encouraged, pushing one of the yaks towards the dragons. The poor yak was doing its best not to be pushed in that direction. You'll really like them if you get to know them. Don't let the appearance fool you. Astrid said to the terrified farm animals. The dragons look scary, but they're just big, scaly reptiles. Just like Snotlout. Toughnut snickered. Snotlout clearly didn't find that funny. He grabbed the Thorsten boy by the front of his shirt and lifted him up, ready to punch him. He hesitated though as he inspected Toughnut. You're Toughnut, right? No. Toughnut said, doing a poor imitation of his sister. Fishlegs ignored the two boys and came up with a suggestion. Okay, what if we look at this from an animal's perspective? He then got on his hands and knees and started crawling around. Oh, hello, Mr. Dragon. Fishlegs said to a monstrous nightmare. I'm just a little sheep here, walking, doing sheep things. Bah. The sheep looked unimpressed. Even if they could talk, they certainly wouldn't talk like that. Bah. You know, he doesn't really seem so big and, he stopped himself when the monstrous nightmare suddenly roared in his face. Terrified, Fishlegs scrambled to where Meatlug was and hid under her, much to the Gronkle's confusion. Sorry. But I'm siding with the sheep on this one. Yeah, that's very helpful Fishlegs. Hika said with sarcasm. Look, Hika and I have learned that once you have a positive experience with something you're afraid of, it isn't so scary anymore. Hiccup said, trying to get the sheeps closer to the dragons. I don't know, Hiccup, sometimes confronting something you're afraid of could make it worse for you. Rada said as a memory passed by her mind, causing the Henderson girl to shudder. Hika knew exactly what her best human friend was talking about. That's not the case all the time, Ray. If you confront your fears and conquer them, it could put your mind at ease. Hiccup also knew what the two girls were talking about and decided to redirect the discussion for Rada. Okay, here you go boys, over here. Hiccup said, moving the sheeps closer to Hookfang. Hika is right. That's what we'll have to do with these sheeps. We just need to show them that there is nothing scary about dragons, and what he didn't notice was that Hookfang decided to sniff the sheeps out of curiosity, and in doing so, the monstrous nightmare sneezed, setting one of the sheeps on fire. Not again. Hika groaned as she watched the sheep run away in panic. Astrid stopped the burning sheep, allowing Hiccup to dose out the flame. Ooh, at this rate we'll never get any milk or eggs. Hiccup sighed. While the teens continued to solve the dragons versus animals crisis, Stoik and Gobber were at the food storage, checking the inventory. Just as I feared, Stoik said, sealing the doors to the food storage. We haven't had time to fully stock the food storehouse. If this storm is as bad as I think it is, we're never going to survive. Not with this inventory. Gobber agreed. It's not even enough for Hiccup or Hika. We're going to need everything we can get from those chickens and yaks. Stoik said. You know, it doesn't really make me feel comfortable putting my fate in the hands of a brainless bird and a big woolly beast that sleeps in its own dung. Gobber said. Well, luckily our fate isn't in their hands. It's in my sons and daughters. Stoik said, confident that his children could solve their problem. If only he saw the situation in the arena. The animals were running around trying to get away from the dragons. Hiccup decided to move on with their plan. Another way for the animals to overcome their fear is to show them that dragons are afraid of things too. He said to Rada, Roughnut, Toughnut, Snotlout and Fishlegs, all who held doubts in their expressions. Astrid supported Hiccup's theory. He's right. For example, remember Magnus the Merciless. Fishlegs shuddered at the reminder. He was terrifying. I was afraid of him until I learned that he was afraid of the dark. So during the day, Merciless, Toughnut said. And during the night, Toughnut. Roughnut snickered. Toughnut punched her on the shoulder. Ow. Hey. That's a real problem. Toughnut said defensively. It makes sense. Knowing that the object of your fears has a weakness makes it look less threatening. Rada said. Exactly. And that's what we are going to do for the animals. Hika said as she took 2 live eels in her hands. She held them up in front of the dragons, and as predicted, all the dragons hissed and backed away from the eels. The animals have noticed this. I think it's working, Astrid said, looking at the animals. She seemed to have spoken too soon, as one of the eels had slipped out of Hika's hand and slithered towards Hookfang. Hookfang backed away from the eel in fear, and in doing so, accidentally hit one of the sheeps with his tail, sending the poor sheep flying into a wall. Whoops. My bad, Hika said, rubbing the back of her neck. She decided to keep the other eel hidden away from the other dragons. Hiccup groaned, clearly starting to panic. Don't worry, Astrid reassured. Worry? I'm not worried. Do I look worried? Hiccup said unconvincingly. Do you want a serious answer to that? Rada asked. Outside the arena, the storm starts to pick up, causing the chief to gather all the villagers into the great hall. Bring in everything you need. We don't know how long we'll need to be hunkered down. The chief instructed to his people. Mulch came up the stairs carrying Bucket in a wheelbarrow. The taller man was clenching his bucket in pain. How's Bucket doing? The chief asked, concerned. Look at him. He always enjoys riding in a wheelbarrow. Mulch answered, gesturing to his friend. Stoik looked out in the direction of the arena, knowing the teens were still there. Mulch, I'll take care of Bucket. You and Gobber go find the kids and bring them here. Stoik ordered, taking the wheelbarrow. At the arena, the animals continued to run around, while the teens tried to catch them. Hey. Calm down. Get back over here. Astrid ordered to a yak. It's okay, little guy. You're safe. Rada cooed, holding one of the sheeps. You know what I'm learning from all this? Hiccup asked, holding the chickens as they squirmed in his arms. Chicken or really, well, chicken. Fishlegs then came up with another idea. What if we showed the animals how much they have in common with the dragons? He suggested. The other teens just gave him a confused look, having no idea what he means. They both lay eggs, right? A terrible terror laid one last week. He then took the rather large egg and placed it on the ground for the animals to see. Hika and Rada's eyes widened as they remember something very distinct about dragon eggs. Oh. Rada muttered as she saw the chickens getting close to the eggs. One of the chickens even sat on top of it. Fish legs, that is really not, Hika tried to say. Alright, see. An egg's an egg, right ladies? Hiccup said to the chickens, apparently forgetting the one important fact about dragon eggs. He and the other teens got a reminder as the egg suddenly explodes, sending all 3 chickens flying all over the place. Until it explodes. Hiccup deadpans. Seriously, has everyone forgotten the incident at Snoggletog? Rada asked, face palming. You just had to bring that up, didn't you? Astrid grumbled, wanting to forget that disaster. Everybody out, the storm is here. Gobber shouted, as he and Mulch came to the academy. Wait, already? But it hasn't been 3 days and 6 hours yet. Hiccup said. And we haven't made any progress with the animals. Hiccup said. Your father wants everyone in the Great Hall. Gobber informed them, gathering the animals with Mulch. Hiccup had a determined look on his face. Take the others. I need to stay and keep working with the animals. They're still afraid. If he's staying, I'm staying as well. Hiccup said, equally determined. Neither of you are staying. The animals will not be of any use if they are frozen. Gobber said. We've got to get the animals in the barn. But by the time they reached the barn, they had another problem. So much for the barn. Gobber sighed. The barn was completely covered in snow. There's no other place to hold them. Mulch shouted in the storm. Yes, there is. Rada shouted back. The Great Hall. Hiccup hollered, pointing in the direction of the storm. That's your plan. Putting the dragons and the animals under the same roof. Mulch said worriedly. We know that won't work. It's not like we have other options. Hiccup pointed out. We could even work on the animals scared of dragons problem there. Seeing no other way, Gobber went with the plan, deciding to deal with any problems between the dragons and animals in the Great Hall. Alright, keep them separate. The teens nodded and worked with the 2 adults to guide the animals and dragons towards the Great Hall. This way. Astrid shouted to the animals. Come on, come on. Let's go. Oh, this way guys. Fishlegs shouted. Just when things seem to be going right, lightning strikes one of the trees, causing it to fall right in front of Stormfly. Due to her defensive instincts, the Blue Natter responded by sending out spine shots. A few of them flew right at Hookfang. Hey, watch where you're shooting. Hookfang roared to Stormfly. Angered, the monstrous nightmare set himself on fire and gave out a loud roar, frightening all the farm animals. This caused all the animals to run away in fear, causing complete chaos. Nothing ever goes easy for us. Rada sighed as she started chasing after the animals along with the other teens. Hey, I got this under control. Snotlout said, holding his arms out as he prepared himself for 5 incoming yaks. He tried to tackle them, but he ended up falling to the ground and getting trampled by the said yaks. Ow, 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 ooh, ow. Okay, everything hurts. He groaned. Fishlegs tried to catch some of the animals running his way from different directions, but ended up getting spun around. Roughnut chased after some sheeps, only to get hit in the face by a crazed chicken. Hiccup and Hiccup were also unsuccessful in catching the animals. Hiccup groaned as he and his sister watched the animals disappear from sight. We definitely won't be able to catch them on foot, bro. Hiccup said to her brother. Hiccup looked at her, understanding what she meant, and nodded. The 2 of them immediately went to Midnight and Toothless and saddled up. Where do you 2 think you're going? Gobber demanded. We're going after them. Hiccup answered. We'll have a better chance of getting the animals with Midnight and Toothless. Hiccup explained. Forget it, Hiccup and Hiccup. We'll never get them rounded up in this storm. We'll have a better chance of getting the animals with Midnight and Toothless. Hiccup explained. No. Your father will kill me if I left either of you out here. Sorry, Gobber. Hiccup and Hiccup both said as they took off. Hiccup. Hiccup. Both of you come back here. Gobber yelled as they flew off. Astrid, Rada, will you 2 talk some sense? He turned to see the 2 girls only to see them getting on their dragons as well, and something told him that neither of them were going to get the twins back. Oh no, not you, 2. Rada. Astrid. Neither of you are going with. He got cut off when the rest of the teens flew over his head on their dragons. Ack. Get back here, all of you. His screaming fell on deaf ears as he watched all the teens and dragons disappear into the snowstorm. In the great hall, all the villagers huddled near the fire burning in the middle to keep warm. Suddenly, a cold blast of wind forced the doors of the great hall to open, causing everyone to shudder. Move those tables against the doors. Stoik ordered, pointing to the tables. 4 Vikings did as told and successfully sealed the door, only to have them forced open by Gobber. Stoik. The barn's been destroyed. The animals have scattered. Gobber alerted the chief. Stoik looked at the blacksmith and noticed that none of the teens were with him. Where are Hiccup, Hicka and the others? I tried to stop him, Stoik. They went after the animals. Gobber answered. Without another word, Stoik went to the doors of the great hall with one clear goal in mind. Gobber went after him, knowing what the chief is going to do. Just as they were leaving, Mulch came with 2 yaks. I caught these 2. I figured at least with these we'd be able to start a new herd. Mulch said, bringing the 2 yaks in the great hall. Gobber noticed something Mulch didn't. You might want to take another look, Mulch. Mulch did so and noticed the problem. Oh. Never mind, boys. He said sheepishly. Somewhere in the snowstorm, the dragon riders flew together with their dragon providing light with their fires. You find as many as you can. We'll herd them back to the great hall. Hiccup instructed to the others. And the sooner we can do it the better. Hicka said, rubbing her arms for warmth. Can we swing by my house? I'd like to get my heavy coat. Fishlegs said, shivering from the cold. Check this out. Toughnut said, getting Roughnut's attention. He punched himself in the face. I'm so cold I can't feel my face. Roughnut punched him as hard as she could. Still didn't feel it. The blonde twin said in a sing-song voice. That takes all the fun out of it. Roughnut complained. Hicka scoured the grounds and found some of the animals. There they are. Come on. She yelled to the others. Yaks to the left. Fishlegs shouted as he flew Meatlug in that direction. He definitely didn't see Snotlout and Hookfang intercepting their path. Chickens to the right. Snotlout shouted as he and Hookfang sent Fishlegs and Meatlug spinning. Hey. I'm flying here. Snotlout said to Fishlegs. He flew Hookfang near the running chickens. Chickens. Over here. Follow me this way. Come on. He guided. Hookfang looked up and noticed that they were flying right into a fallen tree. Without warning, Hookfang them up in the sky. Wait. Where are you going? Ah. Snotlout screamed. I'm trying to keep us from crashing, which is supposed to be your job by the way. Hookfang retorted to Snotlout in his dragon language. Fishlegs flew Meatlug above the sheeps. Sheep. Hey, sheep, this way. Fishlegs said to the sheep, which were running. Bah, bah, bah. He looked happy when it seemed that the sheep seemed to be following him. Hey, it's working. Bah. His happiness was short-lived when he and Meatlug, bah. Fishlegs bleated in misery. I don't like this. Meatlug said equally unhappy. Rada and Astrid flew above them on Sparkfire and Stormfly. Don't worry, Fishlegs, we got them. Astrid shouted. Ready, Ray. Ready, Rada yelled back. They both waited until all the sheeps were gathered together. Now. They commanded both Stormfly and Sparkfire to fire spine shots around the sheep, creating a makeshift sheep pen. Yes. Rada hollered. Gotcha. Astrid yelled. Unfortunately for them, Snotlout and Hookfang chose that moment to fly in still out of control. Duuuhh. Gah. Snotlout yelled, trying to regain control. They flew too close to the sheep pen and Hookfang's wing accidentally knocked over 2 of the spines, allowing the sheeps to escape. Oh come on. Rada complained. Snotlout, what are you doing? You're all over the place. Astrid yelled. You try herding chickens with a dragon, who doesn't listen to you. Snotlout retorted. Sorry for trying to keep us both safe. Hookfang snorted. Astrid then spotted 3 sheeps running on a ledge. Hiccup. Stray sheep. Astrid alerted to Hiccup, who was the closest to the ledge. Hiccup immediately flew toothless to the ledge. The 3 sheeps continued to run across the ledge, when suddenly the smallest sheep slipped and fell off the ledge. The lamb continued to slip down the slope and was about to fall into a trench when Toothless swooped in and rescued the lamb. The male Night Fury gave a gummy smile to the lamb and returned put it back with the other 2 sheeps. Good job, bud. Hiccup praised, giving his dragon a pat on the head. Make way. Hiccup yelled as she and Midnight landed near the two boys. Both Dragon and Rider had their arms and claws filled with chickens. We got as many as we could find. Hiccup reported. Hiccup, the storm is getting worse. I can't see anything. Astrid called to the twins. We need some light, Hiccup said to her brother. On it, Hiccup replied. Come on, bud. Give us some light. Toothless shot a plasma blast in the distance, allowing Hiccup to get a glimpse of two large figures that appear to be yaks. Stray yaks, 12 o'clock. Roughnut and Toughnut spotted them. I see them. And they are huge. Toughnut hollered as he and his sister guided Barf and Belch to where those yaks were. The Zippleback immediately swooped down and grabbed the yaks with their claws. They then flew back to join the others. I got the yaks. Put me down. A loud and familiar voice yelled from below. The Thorsten twins leaned down to see that the two yaks were actually Stoik and Gobber. Right now. Without any hesitation, Barf and Belch released the two men. Stoik landed on his feet while Gobber landed face first in the snow. Do I look like a yak to you? Gobber demanded, getting on his hands and knees. What he didn't notice was that he was near an actual yak and similarities were quite noticeable. Hiccup, Toothless and Midnight flew to the chief and Hiccup got off from their dragons. You two shouldn't be out here, Hiccup. The chief said sternly. Dad, we're sorry we let you down. Hiccup said, defeated. We tried so hard to get all the animals, but things didn't really go our way. Hiccup said, looking down. Stoic expression softened. Neither of you are to be blamed here. Now come on, we're going back. Which way? Gobber asked. Follow our tracks. Stoic answered. But they turned back to find that there were no track, due to the snowstorm. So much for that idea. Gobber sighed. What is with their luck? Sir. What do we do now? Fishlegs asked, shivering. Stoik looked around and saw that the other teens were also shivering from the cold, having been out longer than him and Gobber. The chief knew that he needed to think fast. He came up with a solution. Everyone, come together, he said, holding his arms out. The 8 teens and the 2 adults all huddled together, using each other's body heat to stay warm, although no one was sure if they would survive the snowstorm. Midnight noticed the humans huddled together and nudged her mate. They are all going to freeze to death if we don't do anything. Midnight said. You're right and I know what we need to do. Toothless replied. After exchanging a few more growls, the 2 Night Furies got the attention of the other dragons and informed them of the plan. The other dragons nodded and walked towards the humans, forming a circle with their wings spread wide, blocking the cold wind. What are they doing? Stoik asked, looking at the dragons. They're protecting us. Hiccup answered smiling, knowing that they were going to be safe now. It's their natural instinct. Astrid informed. Meatlug, Stormfly and Sparkfire shot fireballs at the ground which helped in keeping the group warm. Outside the dragon circle, the animals all gathered around saw how warm the humans were. Toothless spotted the sheep he saved earlier and broke from the circle towards it. He gently nudged the sheep towards the circle and the sheep complied. Soon the other animals joined the sheep and huddled with the humans and dragons. Your dragons are really something, kids. Stoik praised. They definitely are. Hiccup replied with a smile. Wouldn't trade them for anything. Hiccup said. The next morning, the storm stopped and the dragons shook off the snow from their wings. The group then made their way to the Great Hall. They're back. And they're all right. Mulch said with relief when he saw Stoik, Gobber and the teens walk into the Great Hall. The animals are all right, too. Bucket said when he saw the Vikings carry in the animals. Mulch then spotted the dragons. Uh-oh. Here come the dragons. He said to Bucket, expecting the animals to run around the Great Hall in fright. He was in for a surprise when Hookfang came into the Great Hall and lowered his wings allowing the sheep that were on it to slide out. Will you look at that? Hey everyone. Look at this. Astrid shouted, getting everyone's attention. The chickens are laying eggs again. Hiccup announced, holding out an egg. I knew chickens lay eggs. Bucket said to Mulch. The doors of the Great Hall closed and everyone, humans, animals and dragons, were ready to make it through the storm. Chapter 3. The Terrible Twos. In the forest of Berk, the 8 dragon riders and their dragons were doing another training exercise, communication between dragon and rider. Okay everyone, follow me and Hiccup and keep a sharp eye out. We're doing low-level evasive maneuvers. Hiccup shouted while riding Toothless, come on, bud. Let's go girl. Hiccup said to her dragon as they dived through the forest. When you're riding a dragon, communication is key. Hiccup, Toothless, Hicka and Midnight zigzagged through the trees in perfect sync, none of them crashing into the trees or into each other. Rada and Sparkfire were right behind them, also moving through the forest in perfect sync. You almost have to read each other's minds. Or else. Snotlout, however, didn't have that much luck as Hookfang kept crashing into tree, though whether it was by accident or on purpose, the Jorgensen boy couldn't tell. Hey! What are you doing? Are you trying to kill me? Snotlout yelled at Hookfang as they flew out of the trees with Snotlout covered in branches. We gotta go back. I think you missed a branch. He said sarcastically. Well, if you insist. Hookfang said in his dragon language. He flew right back in the forest and took the same route. Got it. Snotlout said, dazed as he was covered in more branches when they came out of the forest the second time around. And you have to have an open mind, because sometimes, your dragon knows better than you. Astrid and Stormfly skillfully maneuvered through the trees and came across a fallen tree. Stormfly, up. But Stormfly instead went with her instincts and dived under the tree, knowing that was the better option. This move sent her rider flying over the tree, but luckily, she managed to catch her. You were right, Stormfly. It was down. I almost died. Astrid said, breathing heavily. No problem. Stormfly squawked. Almost died. I would have died. Snotlout yelled while getting some branches out of his nose. Looking good, Snotlout. Astrid commented. Hearing this, Snotlout immediately shoved the branches back in his nose, not knowing that Astrid was only joking. Hiccup then noticed someone was missing. Where is Fishlegs? Has anyone seen him? He asked. I saw him yesterday. Does that count? Roughnut replied. He must have gone the wrong way in the forest. Hiccup suggested. I'll go look for him, you guys stay here. Hiccup said to the other riders. He and Toothless then flew back to the forest to look for Fishlegs. They came to a tree and saw Meatlug stuck on a branch. They then looked down and saw Fishlegs stuck on another tree. Oh, there you are, Fishlegs. Are you okay? Hiccup asked as he and Toothless went to him. I'm fine. Just hanging out, enjoying the view. Definitely did not crash in here. Fishlegs said nervously before caving in. That was a lie, I crashed. There, I said it. Hiccup grabbed both his legs and tried to pull Fishlegs down, but only succeeded in pulling Fishlegs' pants down. Oops. He said. And there goes my dignity. Fishlegs muttered, embarrassed by this. Yeah, you're pretty stuck. Hiccup noted. Then he got an idea. I think I know how to get you down, but you have to stay perfectly still. Why? What are you going to do? Fishlegs asked, getting nervous. Hiccup didn't answer him. Instead, he turned to Toothless. Careful, bud, he's not wearing any pants. That got Fishlegs more nervous. Huh. Wait a second, what does my lack of pants have to do? He didn't get to finish the question as Toothless fired a light plasma blast at Fishlegs, knocking him down the tree. Oh. He then got up. Thank you. I believe those are mine. He said awkwardly, referring to his pants, which were still in Hiccup's hands. Hiccup gave him his pants back and then looked up to Meatlug. Now, we just need to figure out how to help Meat. He didn't have to think of anything though as Meatlug suddenly fell down from the tree. Lug. Can you not tell the others Meatlug broke the trees? She's sensitive about her weight. Fishlegs whispered so that his dragon couldn't hear him. What happened? Hiccup asked. I don't know. I was just flying along, taking notes on the flora and fauna, typical guy stuff. Fishlegs explained, and something weird jumped out of the bushes. It was like a flaming squirrel. Really? A flaming squirrel? Hiccup asked dubiously. Or a chipmunk? Hiccup gave Fishlegs a skeptical look. Or some other flammable rodent. Another skeptical look. I don't know what it was, Hiccup, but we saw it and it scared us. Isn't that enough for you? Fishlegs asked defensively before getting on Meatlug and joining the others. When they left, Hiccup turned to Toothless. Did you hear that? A flaming squirrel. Everyone know there's no such thing as a. Suddenly, Hiccup and Toothless saw that Fishlegs might not be wrong after all. Flaming squirrel. He yelled as he and Toothless ducked behind a log, narrowly avoiding a spinning, flaming creature. Whoa. You saw that, right? He asked Toothless to make sure he wasn't imagining things. He got out from behind the log and went to inspect the creature. On closer inspection, he found that it was actually a small dragon. Hey, little guy. Who are you? Hiccup asked, crouching down. Toothless started growling at the smaller dragon, not trusting it. Whoa, settle down, big fella. Hiccup said, trying to calm Toothless. He continued to look at the new dragon. I've never seen anything like him. Toothless continued to growl. You're not helping. I don't like this. Toothless growled. Hiccup said to his dragon, you know, I think we may have discovered a new species here. Toothless then pulled his human away from the small dragon and tried to persuade him to leave. Whoa, hey, Toothless. What has gotten into you? Looks like he's hurt. Don't be afraid, I'm a friend. Hiccup then got out some dragon nip and offered to the small dragon, here. It's okay. It's just a little dragon nip. It worked as the small dragon ate it up and jumped into Hiccup's arms. Toothless was not happy about this at all as he snarled. Come on, play nice. Hiccup scolded his dragon before he yelped. Ah. Little dragon, big claws. Come on, let's go. We'll fix you right up. Hiccup brought the small dragon back to the academy with Toothless following them, the larger dragon still not trusting the smaller dragon. Once there, the other teens looked at the small dragon in fascination. This is so exciting. It's a whole new species. Fishlegs said excitedly. If this is an undiscovered species, it could be a serious breakthrough which can go down in history. Hiccup said, equally excited. Doesn't look like a flaming squirrel to me. Toughnut commented. Fishlegs ignored that, we have no idea what it's capable of. There's no telling what it might do. Toughnut decided to test it out. Flame. Do it. He commanded. Instead of producing a flame as commanded, the small dragon pounced on Toughnut and started biting his nose. Get it off, get it off, get it off. Roughnut started laughing, amused at her brother's misfortune. But her enjoyment was cut short when the small dragon decided to go after her instead. Oh, that is funny. Toughnut said, getting up. Now that the small dragon was off him, he was free to enjoy his sister's sudden misfortune. Come on, you guys, this is serious. We have to figure out what to do with him. He's hurt. Hiccup said. He's hurt? Toughnut asked incredulously while rubbing his nose. He was the one who got bitten by the small dragon. Here, let me see. Hiccup offered, taking the small dragon. She gives the small dragon a quick check-up. No visible signs of injury. But he does seem a bit shaken up. She reported. He's just really scared. He'll settle down. Hiccup said. New species, remember. We actually don't know what he'll do. Fishlegs pointed out. Well, somebody's got to take him home. Astrid said. Immediately everyone, except for Hiccup and Hiccup stepped back. It became clear who's going to take the small dragon home. Well, big guy, you now have a home. Hiccup said, volunteering to take the dragon home. I can imagine what Dad's reaction is going to be to this. Hiccup said. No. He's not staying here. I've got a 2-dragon limit. Stoic refused immediately when he learned about the new houseguest. But then he'll be homeless. We need to help him. Hiccup protested. Yeah, plus he's not a very big dragon. He's more like a flaming squirrel. Hiccup suggested. Don't want one of those either. He then turned to the 2 night furies, Toothless, Midnight, what are you two waiting for? He asked as he placed a log in the fireplace. Before either of the night furies could light up a fire, however, the new dragon immediately blasted a fire at the fireplace. Ah, looks like you two have been torched. Stoic commented to the 2 night furies as he petted the small dragon. Oh, that's his name, by the way. Torch. So, he can stay? Hiccup asked hopeful. Well, can't throw him out now. I just named him. Stoic answered. While Hiccup and Hiccup high-fived, Toothless still eyed the new dragon wearily. There was no doubt something was going to happen because of that dragon. Midnight looked at her mate worried. Why was he acting like this? What's wrong? She asked. I don't like the looks of this guy. Toothless replied with a growl. Later, it was Hiccup's turn to bring the food for the dragons. He brought 2 large baskets for Midnight and Toothless and a plate with 1 fish for Torch. Okay, 100 for you two, and 1 for you. There you go, guys, your first supper together. He said before leaving the room. Toothless and Midnight were ready to eat their dinner, but then they saw their baskets suddenly empty. They both looked at Torch and realized that the small dragon was behind this. Yum. That was good. Torch said. Hiccup came back to the room and saw the 2 baskets already empty. Whoa, Toothless. Midnight. You two were sure hungry tonight, weren't you? Hiccup asked, oblivious to what happened. He then brought Torch and Toothless to his room, while Midnight went to Hiccup's room, still grumbling about her lost dinner. Okay, Torch. This is where you're gonna sleep. Hiccup said, setting Torch down on a small rock slab next to Toothless. Torch wasn't comfortable on his own slab and decided to go on Toothless' slab instead, much to the Night Fairy's annoyance. Ah, look at that. He's made himself at home. Toothless, you don't mind sharing your bed for the night, do you? Hiccup asked, not seeing Toothless' annoyance. No, I am definitely not okay with this. First, this guy steals mine and Midnight's dinner, now he steals my spot on the rock slab. Toothless said, annoyed. Thinking his dragon is okay with it, Hiccup went to his own bed. Hope he sleeps through the night. He hardly ate. Toothless snorted at that. Oh, Hiccup, you oblivious fool. The small dragon hardly ate. Toothless and his mate hardly ate because of that small dragon. And you. Go to sleep. Hiccup simply said to his dragon before falling asleep. Thoroughly annoyed by what happened today, Toothless curled up on his rock slab and went to sleep. Outside the village in the forest, was a large dragon coming to the same spot Hiccup, Toothless, Fishlegs and Meatlug were at earlier. When the dragon found it vacated, it gave out an enraged roar. The roar woke both Toothless and Midnight up. They both met up outside and went to investigate where that roar came from. They went to the forest to find the source of the roar and they found a dragon, similar to Torch but a lot bigger. It looked like the dragon was searching for something. Doesn't that dragon look the same as the smaller dragon we found? Toothless asked Midnight. She definitely does. And the only time I've seen a dragon this enraged is if. Her eyes widened in realization. Toothless must have come to the same conclusion as panic set in for him. The two dragons looked at each other worriedly. They knew how protective mother dragons can be to their hatchlings. This is not good. The next morning, Hiccup and Hiccup brought Torch to the Dragon Academy. Both were unaware of what their dragons discovered last night. Alright, Torch. Let's figure out what you are. Hiccup said cheerfully. Oh. This is so exciting. Documenting a whole new species, learning all about it. Fishlegs said excitedly. Wait, learning? Toughnut asked, surprised. No thanks. Roughnut said, wanting to avoid the possibility of studying. Come on guys, if this is a new dragon then we could be the first to record information about it. Hiccup said. I think Hiccup is on the right track. There's nothing in the Book of Dragons that looks anything like him. Hiccup said, looking at the Book of Dragons. We even get to determine what it's called. Hey. That is a really big responsibility. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Fishlegs said, getting more excited. I am. I'm gonna name the snot out of it. Snotlout boasted. Good luck with that. Rada said sarcastically. Astrid got out the measuring tape and measured Torque's wing. 20 inches for the wings. She recorded. That's a big wingspan. Hiccup commented. Big wing. Big span. Big wingspan. Snotlout shouted. No to all three. Try again. Rada said to Snotlout. May I have the honor of administering the claw test? Fishlegs offered. He held up a piece of parchment for Torch. Torch sniffed it curiously and then used the claws to shred the parchment to pieces. Look at these talons. They're razor-like. Fishlegs said in awe. Sharp claw. Razor feet. Razor-sharp claw talon feet. Snotlout tried. Hold on. Is he serious? Toughnut asked, referring to Snotlout. Unfortunately, yes. Hiccup answered. You know what's next, don't you? Fishlegs asked. No. Not really. Hiccup answered. Me neither. Hiccup said. Only the single most important test to determine a dragon's reaction to eels. The eel reaction test. Fishlegs reminded them. He then brought an eel from a basket and held it up, making the other dragons hiss and back away in fear. Torch, however, did something that shocked the teens. He not only got close to the eel but he also ate it. Did he just? Rada asked, not believing what she saw. He did. Hiccup answered. He ate it. He ate the eel. Fishlegs said amazed. Eel eater. Come on, that's perfect. Snotlout said. The others ignored him. Hiccup turned to Fishlegs. Fishlegs, has there ever been a dragon who wasn't afraid of? Never in recorded history. Or in uncharted waters, my friend. Fishlegs answered. This is amazing. Hiccup said, surprised to see a dragon who eats eels. You hear that, Torch? You're one of a kind. Hiccup said to the small dragon. Now we need to get him to fly. Fishlegs said. Maybe if Torch saw Toothless fly. Hiccup suggested. He then turned to Toothless. Toothless. Let's take a ride, bud. Toothless, however, refused, turning his gaze away from the small dragon. Toothless. What's going on? Hiccup called, surprised at his dragon's sudden behavior. Don't worry, bro. Midnight and I have got this. Hiccup said. Midnight. Come on. Let's get Torch to fly. She got a surprise though, as her dragon also refused, not looking at Torch. What? Ha, ha, ha. So much for the dragon trainers. How about you let a professional handle this? Snotlout taunted. He then got on Hookfang, we've got this. Watch and learn. But his expression quickly turned into fear as Hookfang started flying around crazily doing all sorts of stunts. Hookfang. So when is the professional going to demonstrate? Rada asked when Snotlout and Hookfang landed. Snotlout ignored her and regained his composure. He turned, okay, your turn. Don't think you have to live up to that. Or better yet, don't have to do anything like that. Rada advised the small dragon. Torch then got up, but instead of flying he started circling the ground. What's he doing? Roughnut asked confused. I think something's wrong. Astrid suggested. Aw man, we broke him. Toughnut cried. Can't be. I checked his wings. They're in perfect shape. Hiccup said. Maybe he can't fly. Hiccup suggested. But then to everyone's shock, Torch started blasting embers from his mouth and slowly rises into the air while still spinning in a circle and emitting ember. He then stopped and landed on the ground. Wow. Hiccup said amazed. You are one incredible little dragon. Hiccup praised. Do you think we could get him to do that again? I want to get a sketch of that. Rada said, her hands twitching to capture what she just saw. Whoa. Look at that burn mark. Roughnut pointed to the ground. I also want to get a sketch of that. Rada said. She then took her sketchbook and charcoal and started sketching away. Look at this burn mark. Toughnut said, holding up his singed hand. Hiccup took out her burn cream from her satchel and started treating the burn. Did you see how he flew? He spun like a typhoon. Fishlegs said. And he came back just like a boomerang. Astrid added. Hot spinner. Flaming comebacker. Snotlout shouted, trying to get a name. No. Typhoomerang. Fishlegs said. Typhoomerang. Nah, I don't get it. Snotlout said. Despite this, everyone agreed that the name of Torque's species will be known as Typhoomerang. Alright, let's see. 20-inch wingspan, eats eels, has a unique way of flying. Hiccup wrote down in the Book of Dragons while Torch was playing around in Hiccup's room. Toothless was at the side, eyeing the smaller dragon wearily. See this, Torch? You're getting your own chapter. Hiccup said, showing the newly written chapter on Typhoomerangs to Torch. His room door then opened and Hiccup and Midnight came in. Hey bro, Ray just gave me her sketch on Torch. She said, giving her brother the drawing. Spot on, as always. Hiccup said, admiring his best human friend's work. While the twins worked on the Typhoomerangs chapter, Midnight and Toothless sharp ears caught the sound of a familiar roar in the distance. Knowing where it was coming from, the two dragons nudged their riders, trying to warn them. However, in doing so Toothless and Midnight accidentally knocked the charcoal out of Hiccup's hand. Toothless. Midnight. Look what you two did. Hiccup reprimanded the two dragons. Seriously, what is it with you two? You guys have been acting weird lately. Hiccup said looking at the two dragons with her hands on her hips. And now I've got to get more charcoal. Toothless, Midnight, you behave yourself while I'm gone. Can you watch over them, sis? Hiccup asked, turning to his sister. Of course. Hiccup answered. Toothless tried to get him to stop. Hiccup, wait. There is danger approaching. Toothless tried to warn. Toothless, calm down already, will you? Hiccup said. Then he went, leaving Hiccup and the three dragons behind. Hiccup then turned to the two Night Furies. Listen guys, I have absolutely no idea what's going on with both of you, but I think. She didn't get to finish that sentence however as both Toothless and Midnight tried to grab Torch, planning on taking him back to his mother. Hey, what are you guys doing? Stop that, Hiccup shouted. But she was ignored by the two dragons. Scared, Torch started blasted fire on the floor. Hiccup immediately ran out of the room before she got burned as she was the only one who wasn't fireproof in the room. She then saw her brother coming back with the charcoal. Hiccup. We have a problem. Hiccup informed him. Alarmed, Hiccup went to his room and saw that it was on fire. Toothless. Midnight. He shouted. He and his sister quickly grabbed a blanket and tried to smother the flames. As soon as they did so, Hiccup turned to his sister. What in the world happened here? After you left, Midnight and Toothless pounced on Torch. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. Torch got scared and started emitting fire. Hiccup explained. Hiccup turned to the two dragons in disbelief. Toothless, Midnight, why did you two do that? What is wrong with both of you? You could have gotten Hiccup burned by that. Toothless and Midnight warbled their apologizes. Midnight, especially, was feeling guilty about nearly getting her rider burned to ashes. Hiccup sighed. Okay, looks like I am going to be sleeping downstairs tonight. We can fix the burnt room problem tomorrow. Hiccup said. He went downstairs with Toothless and Torch in tow. Midnight warbled another apology to her rider. Hiccup sighed. Just go to sleep, Midnight. She simply said before heading to bed. She knew her dragon would never mean any harm to her, but she was just frustrated at why she and her mate were acting like this. Late at night, when everyone was asleep, Toothless and Midnight's ears perked up at a sound of a roar from the distance. Knowing what it was, the two decided to go and see if the mother dragon was anywhere near the village. Midnight looked at her rider sleeping and then got an idea. She started nudging Hiccup, getting her human to wake up. Not now, Midnight. I don't want to go on a late night flight right now. Especially with the way you've been behaving. Hiccup muttered, turning away from her dragon. Midnight sighed and rolled her eyes. Looks like it's time for plan B. Hiccup got a jolt when Midnight used her mouth to grab the girl by her tunic and flew her out the window. Toothless immediately followed them on foot. Midnight. What are you doing now? Get me down. I'm not joking. But Hiccup immediately quieted down when she heard a roar. What was that? She wondered. Midnight landed in the forest behind some bushes and the two girls were then joined by Toothless. Hiccup peered over the bushes, trying to see what's going on, and she was surprised by what she saw. A wild boar was attacking two typhoomerangs, the same size as Torch. What Hiccup saw next gave her the shock of her life. Then came the larger typhoomerang that was clearly the younger typhoomerang's mother. Enraged that the boar was attacking her hatchlings, the mother dragon fired her flames around the boar, surrounding it so that it couldn't escape. Hiccup's eyes widened at the sight. Midnight quickly grabbed her rider again and flew back home while Toothless ran back on foot. As soon as she got back to her room, Hiccup tried to process what happened. That larger dragon must be the actual size of a typhoomerang. And those smaller dragons must be her babies, seeing how protective she was of them. If that's right, then Torch must also be a baby dragon. Wait a second. We stumbled upon a baby typhoomerang and brought it home. Now a larger typhoomerang, a mother dragon, is suddenly in our forest. Her eyes widened again when the realization hit her. She turned to Midnight. Do we have the typhoomerang's hatchling? Midnight nodded to that question. Was that what you two were trying to tell us? Midnight nodded again. Hiccup smacked her forehead. How could she and her brother been so blind? Oh, Midnight. She hugged her dragon. I am so sorry I doubted you and Toothless earlier. Midnight crooned in return. As long as her rider could forgive her for nearly burning her, Midnight could forgive Hiccup for this. Wait, Toothless. She suddenly remembered her brother's dragon and ran down the stairs, tiptoeing past her brother and opened the door. Toothless, who was already standing outside, then came in. Hiccup hugged him as well. Oh, Toothless. I am so sorry. Toothless licked her in response. At least we got one twin to believe us. A thought then came to Hiccup. If that mother dragon was willing to burn that boar for attacking her babies, just imagine what she would do to this village if she finds out we have her other baby. She whispered to Midnight and Toothless. We have to do something about it, and I know just what to do. She quietly tiptoed to where Hiccup was sleeping and gently woke up Torch. Torch woke up and looked at the human curiously. Okay, Torch. Come on. Time to take you to your mother. Hiccup whispered, holding her arms out. Torch jumped in her arms and Hiccup went outside, jumped on Midnight and flew into the forest. Once there, she settled Torch on the ground. Okay, there you go. Your mother will come for you any moment now. She and Midnight then heard a roar in the distance. Maybe sooner than we think. Come on, Midnight. Let's get out of here. She and Midnight flew off, back to the house. Okay. Now I'll just tell Hiccup what happened in the morning. He can apologize to both of you and then things can go back to normal. Hiccup said. She, Midnight and Toothless then went to bed. All were glad that this was over. However, unbeknownst to any of them, The small dragon made its way back to the Haddock household, nestled near Hiccup and went to sleep. Looks like Torch got a bit too attached to the Haddock boy. In the morning, Toothless woke up stretching but then froze when he heard a familiar roar. That dragon is still here. She sounds angrier than before. Didn't she find her hatchling? Toothless then went to the forest to investigate, not noticing a certain small dragon sleeping next to his human. After he left, Hiccup woke up, got ready for the day and decided to head to the forge with Torch to talk to Gobber about his latest problem with Toothless. And now Midnight's also acting the same way. I don't understand what's wrong with here. It's like they're jealous. Hiccup said to Gobber, who was working on dragon teeth. Which is great. So, my first girlfriend is a dragon. Hiccup answered sarcastically. Another thing we have in common. Gobber remarked. Don't pay attention to what's on the surface, Hiccup. Dragons are complex creatures, Hiccup. They operate on many emotional levels. Me. I've only got the one. By the way, where is your sister? I rarely see you two separated. He asked once he noticed that the Haddock girl was not here. She and Midnight are still sleeping. Which is odd because they're usually the first ones up. Hiccup answered. While that is true, but after last night Hiccup had decided to sleep in today and her dragon wasn't complaining. Suddenly Toothless arrived. He went to the forest where the mother Typhumarang was and discovered that she was still searching for her baby, meaning Torch never went to her. What's worse was that the mother dragon was getting closer to the village. Knowing that would cause problems, Toothless went on a search for Torch to bring him back to his mother. His search led him to the forge where he saw Torch with his Hiccup again. Whoa. Okay, Toothless. Hiccup said, trying to calm Toothless, who was roaring, trying to get Torch. You see. This is my point right here. Hiccup said to Gobber, gesturing to Toothless. Toothless, settle down. But Toothless wouldn't listen. The mother dragon was getting closer and closer to the village and he needed to give her back her baby before she could hurt anyone, namely Hiccup. Toothless grabbed Torch and headed in the direction of the forest. Gobber. Grab him. Hiccup shouted. Gobber came in front of Toothless and held his arms out. You want to dance, big boy? 'Cause I've got my dancing shoe on. He then leapt and managed to grab Toothless' tail just before the dragon made a run for it. Gotcha. Whoa. He was then dragged along by Toothless' tail into the forge. My panpipes. Now I can get the band back together. Gobber said cheerfully, forgetting the task at hand. After a bit of struggle, Torch managed to free himself from Toothless and started running away from the larger dragon. Torch quickly hid behind Hiccup's feet. Deciding that enough is enough, Hiccup shouted, Toothless. Back. Down. He and Toothless were inches away from each other, locked in a stare down. The stare down was broken when Gobber decided to play his panpipes. Not helping. Hiccup grumbled, annoyed. Sorry. Gobber apologized, putting the panpipes down. Hiccup then turned to Toothless. I don't know what's gotten into you, but I don't like it. Toothless simply walked away from there. Gobber then started playing a more sorrowful tune on the panpipes, earning a glare from Hiccup. What? Hiccup managed to get on Toothless and decided to take him to the cove for a timeout. Toothless tried to go in another direction. Whoa. Whoa. Hiccup yelled as he tried to get control of the flying. Toothless. The cove is this way. Where are you going? No. You're going to the cove. They managed to make it to the cove and Hiccup got off Toothless' saddle. Okay. You've gotta stay here. I never thought bringing Torch home would lead to this. I've gotta separate you two until I can figure this out. Toothless growled and came in front of Hiccup, trying to keep him from leaving. There is nothing to figure out. You have a baby dragon with you and now the angry mother is searching for him. Toothless growled at Hiccup. Toothless. This is serious. You've got to stay here. Toothless was adamant. Okay. A crazy, out-of-control dragon, blocking my way out. He managed to sidestep the dragon and escape, or not. Meanwhile, Hiccup and Midnight finally woke up and headed to the forge. Hey Gobber. Hiccup said cheerily to her mentor, who was happily playing the panpipes again. Hello Hiccup. Seems like you and your dragon are on friendly terms again. Hiccup told me the issue. Gobber said. Yeah, well that was just a misunderstanding. By the way, have you seen Hiccup? Yeah, he took Torch to the academy. Hiccup and Midnight's eyes widened. Wait, Torch. He's still here. Gobber raised his eyebrows at that. What are you talking about? He never left. He then turned his back on the girls to clean his panpipe. You should have seen it this morning. Toothless completely lost it, but by the time Gobber turned around, he found both Hiccup and Midnight running off to the academy. He then shrugged and continued playing his panpipes. Meanwhile at the academy, Hiccup told Astrid, Rada, Snotlout and Fishlegs what happened, while holding Torch. That's really weird. It's not like Toothless to act like that. Rada said. You did the right thing with Toothless. He'll snap out of it. Astrid said reassuringly. Yeah, but what if he doesn't? Then you won't have a dragon to ride, and if you don't have a dragon to ride then you can't be the leader of the Dragon Academy. Ha! Snotlout said in joy. Don't forget Snotlout, Hiccup still has Midnight so she will be the sole leader till then. And from what I've seen, she's more than capable of doing it by herself. Astrid retorted. I agree. Rada said. Hiccup. Hiccup. Hiccup called out as she and Midnight came into the academy. Hiccup, I have to tell you something. This is important. But before she could continue, Roughnut and Toughnut came in with Barf and Belch, looking excited. You guys would not believe what we just saw. Toughnut said. Excuse me, we're having a power struggle. Snotlout said. We are. Hiccup asked confused. We're not having a power struggle. Hiccup said. The whole forest, ultimate destruction. Toughnut said. It was beautiful. The whole thing was torched. Roughnut said in awe. Torched. Show me. Hiccup said. I know who caused it. Hiccup said. You do? Hiccup asked, looking at his sister. I'll explain on the way. Bring Torch with you. By the way, where is Toothless? Hiccup asked as she and her dragon looked around the academy, realizing that the male Night Fury is nowhere to be seen. I kind of put him on a timeout in the cove. What? Oh Hiccup. Hiccup said exasperated. Why did she have to sleep in today? Come with me on Midnight and I'll explain everything. The 18s then flew to the forest, where the Thorsten twins said they saw the destruction. Like we said, ultimate destruction. Roughnut said, admiring the mess of the forest. Torque's mother. Hiccup asked his sister once she finished her explanation. Yes, Torch is a baby dragon and the Typhoomerang that caused this is his really protective, really enraged mother dragon who needs to get her hatchling back fast. Hiccup said. That's what Toothless and Midnight were trying to tell us. Hiccup said, looking guilty, his best dragon friend was trying to warn him to protect him. And what did he do? Trapped the dragon in the cove. Hiccup noticed her brother's guilt and put her hand on his shoulder. It's okay bro. Midnight had to drag me to the forest to see Torque's mother to finally realize the truth. There was no way you could have known. Suddenly the mother Typhoomerang arrived, eyeing her baby that was being held by Fishlegs. Fishlegs noticed the rage in the mother Typhoomerang and became scared. Whoever gets between that mother and this baby is gonna get fried. He then gave Torch to Toughnut, who started panicking. You take it, he said, giving Torch to his sister. I don't want it, Roughnut said, giving Torch to Snotlout. Just leave it, and let's get out of here. Snotlout said, passing Torch onto Hiccup. Oh. Hiccup said as the mother dragon started to charge at him. He quickly put Torch down. Now, go home to your mama. Torque's mother started breathing fire. Run. Hiccup shouted to the others. Everyone immediately scrambled back to their dragons, while Hiccup got on Midnight. You guys go that way, Hiccup and I will lead her back into the forest away from the village. Hiccup. Astrid called out, as the large Typhoomerang dragon started chasing the Haddock twins and the Night Fury. Be careful. Rada shouted. Hiccup then turned back and saw Torch following them, leading to his mother chasing them. Oh, please stop following us. He begged. What do we do now? Hiccup asked. Go to the cove. Hiccup instructed. Hiccup complied and steered Midnight to the cove. Reaching the cove, Hiccup jumped off Midnight and shouted. Toothless. A few seconds later, Hiccup and Toothless flew in the air, joining Hiccup and Midnight. Thanks, bud. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. You too, Midnight. I should have listened to you both. He said, apologizing to both dragons. Alright, how about we continue this later? We still have something to do. Hiccup said, referring to the baby Typhoomerang and the mother Typhoomerang still chasing them. Hiccup nodded. Right, Toothless evasive maneuvers. Midnight, let's shake them off. Both dragons flew their riders out of the forest at high speed. Yet, the relentless mother Typhoomerang was still behind them. Oh, why won't she stop? Hiccup groaned. Hiccup saw the reason why. Hiccup. She said, just as Torque's head popped out from behind Hiccup. That was fun, can we do it again? Torch chirped, referring to the flying. What the? Torch. What are you doing? You need to be with your mother. Hiccup exclaimed. But I want to be with you. Torch replied. What now? Hiccup asked as she saw the mother typhoon gaining on them. I got an idea. Hiccup, Midnight fly back, give us some space. Hiccup ordered. Hesitantly Hiccup and Midnight complied, hoping he has a good plan. Toothless, we have to try something else. We'll use her size against her. Toothless, up. Toothless followed and the mother dragon went after the boys since they were the ones who have her baby. Now. Dive. Toothless did so as well as the mother dragon. Just when they were seconds away from hitting the ground, Toothless pulled up. The mother dragon, however, wasn't fast enough and crashed to the ground. Toothless and Hiccup landed on the ground, along with Hiccup and Midnight. I hope she's okay. Hiccup said as Torch got off Toothless and went to his mother. Me too. Hiccup said. Torch nudged his mother awake and the mother and baby reunited. They were then joined by Torque's siblings. Ah. Cute. Torque's baby siblings. Hiccup said smiling. Good job, guys. Everybody's back where they belong. Hiccup said as he got on Toothless. Goodbye, Torch. Bye, Torch. Hiccup said, waving to Torch. Let's go home, guys. I thought you'd never ask. Later at the Haddock household, Stoik was cooking dinner while Gobber was playing on his panpipes. Ah. I wrote this just for the occasion. We should have known you two were just trying to keep us safe. Hiccup admitted. We need to learn to listen to you guys better in the future. Will you forgive us? Hiccup asked. As an acceptance of their apologies, Toothless and Midnight regurgitated fish on their rider's lap. We're taking that as a yes. Hiccup said sighing. Yep. Hiccup agreed, disgusted by the regurgitated fish.